I feel like I should have the Mega Man 3 music going to start. or I've been watching Aqua Teen Hunger Force. That should be the intro music. The same music is there. So. Oh, I guess I have music.
Yeah, I'm gonna find the.
What's that?
Because there's a few episodes of South Park got pulled. There's one episode of Aqua Teens that got pulled.
Oh, it's amazing.
What was it?
It's called
Shake
Like Me, and he gets bitten by like what?
It's a radioactive black man.
Yeah, he gets bitten by a radioactive black man and turns into a black guy. And it's just funny, like it's the most ridiculous. Like think about all of the that goes on that cartoon show, but that's the thing where they're like, "Oh no, that's too much."
That's the one that was too much.
Like the one where Frylock's eyeballs become breasts. Like that was fine.
They put a bra in his eye. Yeah, that one they got all freaked out about because it has a bunch of stereotypes in it. Like Shake's lips get really big and he wears chains and he goes, "Shit!" He gets really good at basketball and then he decorates his house.
Stereotype.
He decorates his house with spinning rims. Like just his entire house is covered in them.
That's funny.
It's ridiculous. Did they pull Black Jesus, or is that show still okay?
I think that show's still on. I've never watched any of it though.
I watched a few episodes and I liked it, but I didn't stick with it.
I've been catching up on Venture Brothers. That stuff's hard for me to watch though. I'm such a good multitasker. I can practice guitar and listen and listen to a podcast while I watch a show. And those shows I can't. Like if I want to catch the jokes, I can do it.
I can do it with Aqua Teen and I can do it with Squidbillies. I can't do it with Venture Bros.
Yeah, I got
Venture Brothers. You have to watch. And that's things like I'll listen to them rewatching them. I'll just put them on in the background. But like the first time through, you have to watch those, and they're worth rewatching because there's so many layers. There's so many little things they put in there that you don't catch the first time.
Yeah. I feel I already need to kind of rewatch a bunch of them, even just kind of realizing that I should have been paying attention as I was doing other stuff. But oh well.
I've been watching Sopranos, and the way that I watch it is that I watch it while I'm eating, and that way, because that way I just watch it.
Are you eating gabagool?
No, but that's the thing I was about to say. Is like that's what's fucked me up. Is that like I've been going to buying all kinds of fucking prosciutto and Coca-Cola just because that show. Like they're constantly eating. I'm like, oh god damn it, I need Italian food.
What's up, Christopher from before the Crow's Nest? You bigot! I saw you get called for being a bigot today.
Yeah, I read through that a bit. Oh,
Forrest and Troy.
I listened to the Forrest and Troy show from a few days ago today.
I listened to that too. That was a good one. Very well done.
Yeah. Oh, Forrest. He talked. So Troy talked about James Randi in there. I don't know, but like Forrest, you would love James Randi if you haven't seen him already. I mean, he's dead now, but watch. What is it? An Honest Liar. It's one of my favorite documentaries ever. That's
James Randi is a hero.
James Randi is one of the like key moments in my faith journey. I've told this story before, but when I was like, I think it was 11 or 12, there was a Nova special centered around James Randi, just called Secrets of the Psychics, and like in that episode, like he explains astrology, spoon bending, and ESP, and that forever like ended my belief in like the supernatural, I still believe in like Mormon supernatural stuff, but like just all of those magical claims about like tarot cards and all that crap. I was like, oh no, this is all a trick.
It's like crack, man. Watching him like just get a guy that believes in dowsing rods and be like, okay, find the water, asshole. But he's such a showman about it too. He's not a dick. He's just, and it's funny watching it. It's like him and his husband together to me always look like Charles Darwin married to Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite.
Yeah, no, with the 250-year difference between them.
I know. That's
really what that looks like.
This is my favorite joke. This picture on here is my favorite joke from The Onion in the past 5 years. It was one of their best ones. Psychic already sick of spectral James Randi ragging on her from the afterlife.
But he was a big influence on Penn and Teller, and because Troy mentioned Penn and Teller talking about like the greatest moral if we're going to be moral, we have to tell the truth. And it's just funny because, like, he's a famous magician, but I saw his show, I don't know, it was more than 15 years ago now. I saw their show, I should say, at the Rio. And one of the things that's striking about it is that they show you how they do almost every one of their tricks. They do the trick, and then they show you how it's done. The only one that they don't tell you how it's done is the bullet catch. But Penn has said, like, it's patented, and patent records are public records, and all you have to do is file a thing with the patent office, and you can find out how they do the bullet catch. And I've never bothered to do it. And if anybody has, I haven't looked it up. I guess, I don't know, maybe I will someday. But yeah, like almost every single trick they do in their show, they show how it's done, and they make it part of the show, and it's really, really interesting how they do that.
Yeah, well, I came to this realization when I was listening to the interview, because Forrest is about my age; he's a couple years younger. But I was like, oh yeah, we missed out on the best parts of the atheist heyday, right? Because he was like, I came into it with like Sam Harris and Hitchens and Dawkins, and so did I, kind of, but it was mostly like reruns of them even by then,
like 10 years later.
It was because Hitch was dead really by the time I really got into him, and
oh man,
and I saw a bunch of good Dawkins stuff, but
there was the time that like Troy said
like
that
the
he
big
went
atheist
to...
thing, the big atheist thing that happened when I was first coming out of it, Bill Nye debated Ken Ham, like the fucking clash of the minds right there.
Like, I was out so long that I'm like, you know what? I have seen this debate 800 different ways already. I hadn't,
and so I was genuinely excited for it, and then I watched it. I was like, this is fucking stupid.
But the thing is like in the 2000s, he had the amazing meeting and the atheist conventions. One of those atheist conventions came to Salt Lake with all those guys.
Yeah,
and it was all hopeful. It was all, hey, this is going to be cool, And,
yeah.
Especially the amazing meeting stuff. Troy said he went to one of them. He said it was like straight funs and parties and cool.
Forrest and Troy were talking so much about free will, and Christopher Hitchens. I don't know if it's original to him. It's hard to tell with him.
Yeah, he's got a.
But one of my favorite things anybody ever said about free will, Christopher Hitchens said, is, "Of course we have free will. The boss insists upon it."
Look at this. Troy said he made a video on the debate. Bill Nye versus Ken Ham. Hey, check that out.
I remember watching it just because I was like, man, Ken Ham, this wacky motherfucker who's got like a museum with Triceratops wearing a saddle.
Yeah, no,
Troy. Yeah. So Troy and Forrest talked about this, Christopher, and it's true. The most slept on person out of all of them is Bennett.
Oh, for sure.
Bennett just slept on.
So that was one rerun. That was one that wasn't a rerun for me. That I got that awesome discussion between Dennett and Harris over Sam Harris's free will book, and like, man, that book was so bad. Like oh my god, I don't understand how people can be convinced by, because the first thing he says is like name a city, and they'll be like, think about a city in your head. He lets him think, like, why didn't you say Driggs, Idaho? And I didn't fucking know what city that is. And he says, then he thinks it's a mic drop. He's like, why did you not say that which it did not occur to you to say?
I didn't know about it. I only read The End of Faith. And like, that's things, I read all of the Four Horsemen's books in that year that they all came out. And like, and I agree, like, Dennett's book was the nicest. It was by far the most comprehensive. It was the most difficult to read intellectually. Like, it required the most thinking. Because like Hitchens and Dawkins in particular really was just kind of banging on the basic stuff. I remember The End of Faith having a little more to
but
it.
Hitchens
but
does
Dennett's book was the only one that you could really walk away from it with like something else to think. Like Dennett's book gave you something to build on your own, whereas everybody else was just kind of like just a swinging a hammer at God.
Just like Troy said, whatever Dennett's trajectory has been is a little bit of mine, of like saying, wait a minute, let's look at this religion thing again and think about what it is as a functional thing that happens in humans and what we're doing here. And that's,
it was always, I always jump back and forth between, it was Dawkins and Hitchens for me, because Hitchens is a smarmy asshole and he's quick on his feet and stuff, and Dawkins is just like I don't know. He's always felt very genuine to me, even when I think some of the stuff he says is dumb, and maybe he argues against people who are really dumb. But but I have a very soft spot for Dawkins.
They're talking about Shermer in the comments. Somewhere I have Why People Believe Weird Things, an autographed copy of Why People Believe Weird Things, because I met
I
Shermer
had that. I
at
had
a
an
God
autographed
debate.
copy of that too, which was yours that I had for like 10 years till I gave it back to you.
Oh, that makes
but
sense.
I did give it back to you. I remember doing that.
I don't know. No, I know where it might be in my closet studio here somewhere. Because
I feel the same as you do, Forrest, about dodging the free will subject. I feel almost exactly how you do about that.
It's hard it's hard to care about it after a while. I don't know. It sounded interesting at first, but then the more you get into it, you get to the point where like, well, it kind of doesn't totally matter, because even if you like, even if you decide that you don't have free will, like, you just kind of have to operate in a way that you do. You know, you got to at least pretend that you do. And so
years and years ago, when the Reasonable Doubts podcast was going, they did a whole series on determinism. They had guests on, they went back and forth. And like, I don't remember too much of the details of it, but I remember at the end of it just come to the conclusion of like, whether we do or don't, it doesn't matter. Like it makes no difference. Nothing about our lives changes if determinism is true or not.
They brought it up in the episode, and I do like how Bennett describes it, that it's it's like a confined conscious decision capacity for decisions and stuff like that. This is what I'll tell you. What puts me on the edge about it is just the living experience of poker. The living experience of poker is what puts me over the edge of like, there's free will. And the reason I think that is because when you're in those actual moments where you have to make a decision one way or the other, and it's great big fat decisions, and you make a lot of great big fat decisions playing a lot of poker, at some point or another, you kind of feel like any single one of those, I don't think you could say that it was predetermined. I would absolutely go this way or that way on this one. Like there sure seems to be like a last split second decision, like no that way, no that way, no that way, and there was no predicting in the univerce.
Well, in Harrison's
what's the most money you've ever had in the pot? What's the most money you've ever had in the pot?
Oh, I've had over 1,000 in the pot.
Like the last time I played poker was also the biggest pot I ever had, which was like $1,300. And that's things like, and I'm still proud of myself because like I lost that hand because the guy got runner.
You made the right.
I felt great because like I played it exactly right, so I feel good. Like I'm mature enough of a poker player that I walked away from that feeling good. Like I lost 2.5 months of rent or whatever, but like I was happy. What those cards I played it right, and that guy even apologized to me because he knew he had no business calling me.
But what those cards were already there. Those cards were always going to be there. But that you chose it one way or the other. I mean, especially if you're in the moment where you don't know what you're going to do, and you're really sitting there thinking, and you got 30 seconds to think, and you're like, should I put this? I kind of know I should put this in, and I kind of feel like I shouldn't, but I know I should on the stats. What should I do? And then whatever happens in that last like little split second, but that's just experiential. I mean, that's no proof of anything. But when I'm in those moments, I kind of sit there and go like, I've had so many of these feel like they go one way or the other, or I watch another human that I'm absolutely positive they're going one way or the other, and then the other thing happens as I'm watching them in that split second choice moment. But anyway.
I like this. What? Wait, before the crow's nest, just
which one? Determinism?
Determinism falls apart in many places, but one of my favorites is that it and the multiverse make each other fall apart. See, my thing with the multiverse is that I feel like I've always had sort of a pull towards things like scientific, you know, like I remember the first time I ever paid attention in school was in 6th grade when we went over very basic physics, talking about the structure of an atom. I love it, and it makes sense to me, and it immediately makes sense to me. And then you get into things like the multiverse and shit like that. And people I know who I know haven't really researched this. When we talk about God shit, it's always them being like, "Oh, the multiverse explains it." Like if somebody tries to bring up the fine-tuning argument or whatever, I'm always in the multiverse, like all of the possibilities would have to happen. And like, you're pulling that out of your ass. I don't know if there's very good evidence for a multiverse because like Haven't looked into it, but it feels very silly to me, just kind of off the bat. And
Well,
maybe
I mean,
I'm wrong about
apparently
this.
it's a series. So remember that musical band, the Eels, that had that hit Novocaine for the Soul in the 90s? That guy, Novocaine for the Soul. You know that song.
Sing more.
It was a good song. But that guy, he's
Kind of
called
feels like
E.
a predetermined melody to me.
Anyway, he's a real guy, and his dad was the physicist who proposed the multiverse theory.
Wow.
And Nova, talking Nova again, I know it was PBS. PBS did a documentary that was kind of like, it was sort of interesting because part of the story was that E, the guy that in the Eels goes by E, his name is Everett something. But he talks about how, like, he never really knew his dad. Like, his dad was a busy physicist and then died when he was young. And, like, so it's kind of like a personal story about him exploring this. But he, like, talks to a bunch of his dad's old physicist buddies about this crazy idea. Because, like, when he proposed it, it just kind of got poo-pooed. But then, like, decades later, it started to be taken more and more and more seriously. But anyway, that's the multiverse thing. And he's a pretty good guy, a pretty good artist. Like, I haven't gotten really into him, but, like, when you listen to his albums, like, it's all really solid stuff. And he makes a really good joke because, like, one of his dad's physicist buddies said, something like, like, geniuses are never really appreciated. You do this great thing and nobody takes it seriously. And he says, like, well, I feel that way every time I put out an album.
Yeah. So getting into Shermer.
I met Michael Shermer.
I'm such a hack. Well, maybe we could all meet him if we go and charge the Mormon Stories building in 2 weeks.
That is not an incitement to violence.
Yes, it is. Everything is. We found that out this week.
I'm coming to your house and committing a crime.
That's porch time throwback.
First, let's look at this. Look at what a hack I am. I do all this in Microsoft Paint. What kind of hack?
Oh, of course he did that. Of course, that article is such naked bullshit.
Well, listen,
Dan McKayen. He's
all the
all
comments
over
are
the Scientific American. Here's why human sex is not binary that they tried to claim, and that's not true. Anyway, here's Michael Shermer contesting that a little bit on his Twitter, and I like this
channel
quote.
Andrew Tate.
Yeah. Jay Bhattacharya said, in science, if someone writes something you think is wrong, you write the error with data and logical reasoning. In science TM, if someone writes something you think is wrong, you scream misinformation, spew ad hominem, and deplatform the person, which is how Dan McClellan does his humanities science. Divinity school science.
Disinformation.
Anyway, so Shermer, because of that article, like many other people online, he kind of went into a tear about what are you talking about, Scientific American? So he says here, sure, Science American, just hit the pause button like watching a Netflix film. You can pick up right where. Oh wait, this is a post where they said decades of data support the use of safety of puberty pausing medications.
Like, what the fuck are they talking about?
Which
what
gives transgender.
They're talking about precocious puberty. From what I've read, like any of these studies that they have are not on trans kids. They're on precocious puberty, which when you have precocious puberty and you need to block it, it's to delay it or something like that. It's and for it to start up like maybe a year later or something like that. It's not to stop it indefinitely, which is what you have to do when you're a trans kid. So it doesn't actually do anything. It doesn't say anything about trans kids on permanent puberty blockers never going through puberty.
Yeah. Which gives transgender adolescents and their families time to weigh important medical decisions. Yeah, right. You just hang out for a little bit. No big deal. So Michael Shermer answers that. Sure, Science American, just hit the pause button like watching a Netflix film. You can pick up right where you left off later. Wrong. No one knows the long-term consequences, but preliminary data are not promising. Plus, minors have no clue what they're doing when it comes to such life-changing decisions. This is why we don't let them smoke, drink, drive, vote, go to war, etc. But sure, cut off your breasts, take hormones and blockers, no problem.
Or marry 34-year-old Mormon prophets. That's another thing we don't let children do, right?
No problem. Whatever teenager feels the truth. And then, of course, here's him posting about a gaffe is what a politician tells the truth. some obvious truth he isn't supposed to say. Like, a gaffe is when a politician tells the truth, some obvious truth he isn't supposed to say. It's a historic day. For the first time, a man has won UCI cycling women's. A man has won a women's race. Oh, and speaking of poker, I don't have it pulled up, but a man won a female poker tournament.
Yeah, he didn't even pretend to be female, though. He just like noticed that there was no law against him entering.
Well, no, according to their rules, you just identify as.
Was that what it was? I thought it was
asking a question. No, I just mean according to queer theory rules.
Sure, yeah. This was funny.
You don't have to change your hair. You don't have to put on makeup. You don't have to do anything. You just have to identify as. And if anybody questions that, they're a hateful bigot that is contributing to the suicide of children.
Well, for sure, but I don't think this guy even identified as a woman. I think he I think he just saw a rule that he could exploit, and
it's like it's like my job
there's nothing we could do. It felt like, did you ever watch that stupid movie Gus? It's a Disney movie from like the 70s or 80s about a donkey from Yugoslavia that can kick a field goal from anywhere. And
my gosh,
like
I have watched it.
They're going over.
I was like, "What the hell are you talking about, Jared?" And then I was like, "Wait a minute."
They're like, "Fuck, there's no rule against having a donkey in the NFL. I guess we just gotta let him go."
Oh, I didn't know that's a good idea. I was like,
I remember,
my job has like a no hats rule. You're not allowed to wear hats. And I just I made the joke about I'm just gonna show up in a turban and let them make an issue of it.
Oh man, that's become issues in my jobs before in the past. That really has. But then do you remember Necessary Roughness, where the girl came in and kicked for him and it was Kathy Ireland? Oh yeah. Anyway, Jonathan Streeter, we were all looking at this and noticing Michael Shermer, who is slated to come on Mormon Stories podcast. What is it, on the 19th? Something like that, in 2 weeks-ish.
I'm sure Michael Shermer has. He's got a whole career of talking to midwits, but I'm still excited to watch.
But sometimes he knows he's going into midwits. I think in this situation he thinks he's coming into somebody who.
The guy is a pro. He's a pro at public speaking and this thing of engaging with people. He's really good.
If they don't want to deal with this, he will dodge this. But this is the deal: if it gets jammed into the Mormon Story space and they see that he is this type of transphobe, we have a bit of a J.K. Rowling cancellation situation.
You're going to be you can be damn sure that I'm going to be super chatting trans questions to the live stream. I'm so excited about this because you can make this the biggest no-win situation for John Dehlin, because if you bring attention to how problematic Michael Shermer is, then he has to address it. And he can either, with him, it's I can either platform the bigot or I can say no to, the biggest fucking interview ever.
Yeah.
He might be the biggest guy John Dehlin's ever had. Other than Stephen Hassan, probably not even quite as big as Shermer.
No, I'd say Shermer's a bigger deal than Stephen Hassan.
Dang it, man. I thought I had one that had Streeter's original post with the words on it. Does anybody have that saved anywhere? Because we can't pull it up right now. Why can't I pull it up right now?
So where was that originally posted? It was originally posted somewhere that I was banned from.
Yeah, Mormon Stories.
Flip's already banned.
Yeah, we're both banned.
You two are both banned. I went to the original post and I swore I took a screenshot of it. I may have got it somewhere.
It's in
but
I think it's in our.
This is a screenshot. This is a screenshot of it. Only I didn't get the top of the original post there. Hold on a second. Because I think that one doesn't have the original post on it.
Dude, this is so retarded. I just kicked over to Facebook and it's showing me an ad for StreamYard because we're on StreamYard right now. Oh, here's the thing that's funny that happened to me the other day, though, is I was watching. Have you ever watched The Internet Historian? It's a channel on YouTube. He's just funny. But I was rewatching his 45-minute documentary on the Costa Concordia disaster. You know, that Italian guy that sailed the cruise ship too close to the rocks and 32 people died. And that's the sad part, but the rest of it all is hilarious. The ad came because YouTube, I don't have the magic YouTube. I don't subscribe. And the ad was Carnival Cruise Lines. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. You have to be kidding me.
Dang it, dudes.
I think that their algorithm is smarter than that, but no.
I think we cut off the original post and we can't pull it up because it's been pulled off of Mormon Stories. It has been banned. Banned from talking about. I think it just
So
said all it
somebody
said
called
is
out Streeter, and Streeter answered, right?
I have the call out right here. It's actually on the screen, but I thought I just cut off the top of the thing. But all it said in the top of the thing is, "Hey, Michael Shermer is somebody who's been talking a lot about some of the issues that I brought up on here.
Do you want me to
I
read
would
it?
be interested. Did you find it?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Unless
He's
you
just
can.
saying, I'm looking forward to this. Michael Shermer has recently been expressing the same reservations that I and many other medical professionals and oh yeah, there. I didn't realize he added that. Medical professionals, good job. That'll go over well with ex-Mormons. How can you argue against the experts? And parents have about the medical and surgical transition of kids with gender dysphoria. I hope the discussion includes looking in this topic as it is relevant to the title of Why People Believe the Irrational. Ooh.
And of course, he has to say that because every time he posts something, they say it's not relevant to.
I
Oh, I know.
we're
I've been like, I remember going
what-
to a post where, like, a post in one of those groups where the guy was actually saying, like, get out there and vote for the right people. And I commented, well, who are the right people? Is like straight Democrat, of course. Like, that was the whole post.
That's
Yeah.
the
And
post, yeah.
and I was like, okay, but this doesn't feel relevant, and my things get taken down all the time for not being relevant.
Yeah, I mean,
Well, yeah,
but
no,
we've
it's-
seen that in all the ex-Mormon stuff forever that they just post
They have their
straight
version
political
of
things.
they have
But
their versions
that's
of
neutral.
the spirit
They
of
think that's
contention.
neutral.
Yeah, they have their versions of well, that's the spirit of contention, brother. Or well, that's not relevant to my salvation. You know, like that's what they're doing is like, you know, well, that's not relevant to saving trans kids. Like, yeah, of course it's not. That's the fucking point. We're attacking your dumb beliefs.
So I commented there. I said, would be a long time coming. Welcome examination of certain rational claims, which are more like activism, barging into STEM without sufficiently fleshing out the claims. And Jonathan says, I'm glad Mormon Stories isn't following the trend of deplatforming people who are being called anti-transgender activists by trans rights activists. And Troy commented on it. I didn't grab what Troy said. And then Christopher from Before the Crow's Nest just commented something like, whoa. And somebody went after me, Jonathan, and Christopher for Christopher saying, whoa.
Whoa.
My God.
He's got the face of a bigot, very white and bearded.
Yeah. Let's see here.
Jay Bhattacharya has what sounds like a South Asian name, but we all know that they're white adjacent.
I posted a Mormon Stories podcast thread too about how Shermer never joined up with Atheism Plus.
Let me guess.
not banned.
Maven put it on the shadow banned list.
Let's see here.
Maven never responded, by the way. Maven never answered my question. You know, like, because there was some podcast where she said a 14-year-old can't consent to marry Joseph Smith. So I asked, can a 14-year-old consent to gender transition? And
well, the difference is that one's nuanced.
Oh, whoops.
Anyway,
I forgot. My question doesn't have any empathy in it, so it's not worthy of an answer.
Jonathan, me, and Christopher from Before the Crow's Nest, we all got thrown. I didn't put the guy's name on here or anything, but we got told to think about what about the trans?
What the fuck are you guys on about?
None of us have ever heard one of these things once ever.
Whoa.
Yeah, they always point to the whole like, trans people like are victims of violence. What are we doing about their rights? It's like, well, it's already illegal to kill them.
Yeah.
Like we already covered that.
Yeah,
when you say trans rights are human rights, I'm like, yeah, they are, and they have all of them. They have the same rights.
They have all their rights. They have all their rights. That's the thing. When people
I love the growing list of human rights that we have. Like, this lady running for governor in Idaho last year was saying that the internet is a human right and the government should pay for it for you. And you got this guy saying that there's a human right to piss where you feel comfortable. How is
that was called the European law.
How are we just sitting here watching the rise of Christianist fascism in our country?
Where'd you learn that from, buddy? Who'd you hear that from?
Huh? Like, to be clear, like all of the talk of trans rights, they're not rights; they're special privileges for trans-identifying people. That's what we're talking about: special privileges. It's just like feminists grinding on about equal rights for women when women have equal rights, and like right now. Today and for our entire lives, women have had more rights than any of us under the law in America and, in fact, in most of the West since at least the 1970s.
Yeah, if you can conceive,
people, Women today have more rights. None of the three of us ever had the right to vote, and we still don't. It's a privilege that we got in exchange for signing up for selective service.
I think it's
what that
unfair
is.
that like if I conceive, like I'm just fucked. But if you conceive, you can just fucking kill it. That's bullshit.
So Jonathan answered that point by point, just going into some of the issues that he's brought up and many of his
Let's
different
see.
videos.
I see swastikas everywhere. That's weird.
Yeah.
I should be reading English.
I do this because
I
hate the kids. I hate the kids so much. I want those kids to suffer.
I know that Jonathan he gets a boner every time a teenager cuts herself. It's creepy.
But at the same time, we're ignoring the rise of Christo-fascism.
That is a heckin' transformerino.
That's like because I am genuinely concerned about Christian dominionism. Like those people do exist, but like they have no. First off, they are a tiny minority, even within Christendom,
always been,
and they have no institutional power. None. They live in rural compounds and they stick to themselves.
But they're doing
they
a bunch
don't have
of
anybody in office,
and
they don't run any public schools. They're not the heads of any public humanities departments in any universities.
And
they're not.
But we're going to get into this.
HR person is not a Christian dominionist. I goddamn guarantee it.
But we're going to get into this because we're going to go to the Jim Bennett thing later, and part of what he's
I only watched
they're desperate nationalists. It's fascism. It's the fascism.
They're pointing a gun at my head.
And part of what the whole entire thing is that there's concept creep going on. They're trying to lump all Christians and all nationalists into Christian nationalists, and then saying, "Oh, we got the rise of Christian nationalism." You mean my country 'tis of thee? The thing that's been around since a couple hundred years, that all these Christians have been Christians and nationalists for quite a long time now.
According to Bruce R. McConkie, there is the Church of the Lamb, that's Mormons, and there's the Church of the Devil, everything else.
Yeah.
And these people have the exact same thing. There's the Blue Church, they're the good ones, and then there's literally everyone else. Oppressive. My mind goes back to Hillary Clinton, the basket of deplorables, racist, sexist, homophobic. Like they have the exact same attitude. If you're not on board with their shit, you are either that or that adjacent.
So James Lindsay's been brawling with him a bit. He did like a whole episode on him with some of the real deal ones, but part of what he's been poking on for is that they're just falling into a dialectical trap and getting people to kind of expose themselves and play the game that they want them to play the role that they need them to play. But one of the deals about it is there's no way for them to unify, because the small groups of them that do it, it's not even one small group. It's a bunch of different little small groups from different theocracies that completely disagree with each other. Like, you think Desnat can join up with the Tradcasts? Can join up with the
the Baptists.
So there's a small percentage of each of them, and those ones would fight each other to the death anyway.
Oh yeah,
they're not joining up. So it's like, sure, we can freak out about it, but it's just something to kind of steer the brain away, like a whataboutism. Like, how dare you get upset that we're mutilating children who don't deserve this at all? Or Dan McClellan trying to say that the rise. We had the stuff come out from the polls this week that 1/4 of kids nowadays are saying there's some sort of LGBTQ, and if you go into the real details of that, and of course Dan McClellan tries to say, well, it's just like we used to repress left-handedness or something like that. But if you go into the details of it and you see the people who act on it, like the actual numbers who act on it are the exact percentages that it always was. 2%, 3%, and
also
there's obviously like a social contagion going on. And if you know that social contagion, we're going to be.
That's things
you sound like you're doubting my self-identification. Are you doubting?
Because here's the thing: is that
hey man,
you can, because being queer isn't a real thing. Not under queer theory. There's being different. There's being non-conforming. But queer, as in capital Q, queer, doesn't exist. You can't fake left-handedness.
Yeah.
You can't become it. You can try.
Oh, I tried.
But it doesn't work. You know, like how many baseball pitchers were like, you know what? Because that's things like I know being a left-handed baseball pitcher is a big deal. How many fucking right-handed people practice left-handed throwing and got so good at it that they were able to?
Well, that's just it. I can switch it, but I never got good enough hitting either way to even like make a high school team. So what's that matter? But the Streeter goes through a lot of the different points here of the problems to the Dutch protocol. His channel's got like a really good like list of different videos going into detail on each one of them. Problems with Tavistock. There's a lot of it on the every single one of these subjects kind of gets covered by the Lotus Eaters and those guys bit by bit. Surgeries.
I love point 6. Surgeries are happening to kids. Period. Yeah. Just because, by the way, you guys have been lying to us for years about that.
When they can say, well, there's only so many of them, so what? Why are you caring about that? And then there's the whole thing of like, then they push on your libertarian tendencies. Your liberty. Oh, now you want the government to interact? Yes. Like libertarian tendencies have always thought protect kids is one of the
same reason. For the same reason that I think it should be illegal to have your daughter's clitoris cut off in Michigan, if you're in a traditional Somalian family, it should be illegal to take your kid to a doctor and have hormone blockers given to her. Same reasons. Like if you're an adult, if you're a traditional Somalian adult woman and you decide that you need your clitoris cut off, well, okay, you know.
I'll probably tell you like, please don't. But
yeah, I'd be like, I think you should reconsider this, but like have kids? No, no.
They try to take your own morals and hold them against you. They'll be like, wait a minute, you believe in the non-aggression principle? Well, then maybe you shouldn't aggress against me while I'm trying to cut my daughter's tits off.
Yeah. And all this while, by the way, when we live in a country where a majority of infant boys have their genitals mutilated just as a matter of societal norms, for fuck's sake.
We have a cosmetic surgery like right when we're born. Yeah. Like you don't want his dick to look weird.
No, and like and that's things like it's not medically necessary. It's not even a religious thing for most of the people that it happens to. It's literally just a societally enforced norm.
We had this discussion when we were having our kid. Like my wife was like, "Do you want to circumcise him?" I was like, "No." She's like, "Why not?" Like, why? Like you're the one that wants to lop part of his dick off. You got to explain it to me. And she's like, I don't know. It'll look kind of weird.
Years ago, I had this conversation with a gay friend of mine, and he's like, well, you know, when you're sucking a cock, it's pretty gross when that thing is on there. And I'm like, just imagine that you were talking about a woman to be like, well, I really like going down on somebody who's had their clit removed.
Look at this. Right when you guys say that, I get a notification from KSL celebrating Jewish American Heritage Month. No place for anti-Semitism in Salt Lake City.
Oh no, we're being anti-Semitic. I'm just kidding. I love dick skin being lopped off.
This term right here is something that everybody should.
Do you think Jim Bennett, if he watches this, will try to accuse us of being DesNat adjacent for being anti-Semitic and against circumcision?
Yes.
That's the stuff that doesn't make sense because, like, he'd even say something like, "Oh, they keep saying this thing of
the Hitler."
Holland did nothing wrong. That's like Hitler did nothing wrong. And they had a podcast that said Holland did nothing wrong. Yeah, you were on that podcast, Jim. You were there. Streeter and Jim were there talking about it.
I can't believe these people are defending my prophet, seer, and revelator.
Yeah. This term, therapeutic cascade, is something that everybody should get to know pretty well because, I mean, it used to be that most of those kids would just desist. Now less are desisting. And part of the reason they're desisting, the lesser desisting, that sudden jump in twitching is something called a therapeutic cascade, which is the concept that if you go down a route of starting to take highly volatile drugs like hormones and stuff like that, there's no off ramp. So you're going down it, you're going down the middle of it, and it's something they're very, very aware of in other types of sicknesses and problems that you cause a problem of, you become the problem for your therapy. Not
years ago, before this even really blew up the way it has in the mainstream, just years ago, I watched on YouTube, it was 90 minutes long, and it was the USC surgeon that heads the department that does vaginoplasties, whatever it's called. And it was literally just like, it was like so you're considering a vaginoplasty. Here is the information. Again, by the doctor at the hospital doing the surgeries, obviously not against it, and just her explaining what it is and what the aftercare was and what the prognosis was for having it. I was like, that for me was a big turning point, because before that I was very naive. I thought like, well, medical science is amazing. I guess they can make a vagina out of a butthole and an inverted penis.
I just assumed,
but like listening to that, I was like, holy shit. Like, that was where I first
If you
learned
hear the
about
detail
dilating.
about that's happening to
didn't know about
that jazz kid, and there's like smells with it.
Oh yeah. Well,
oh yeah.
Then they talk about that kid there's that kid in, what was it, Poland, that just fucking died of necrosis because they're like, he had the same issue that Jazz did, where like he had been on puberty blockers so long that his penis was too small to make a fake vagina out of. So they didn't have enough tissue to work with. So what they did is take part of his colon. Now, like, the problem is that I view this as a cosmetic surgery. And what they'll try to do is argue it as, no, this is essential. This is just essential as like a triple bypass. It'll save your life, because otherwise if this kid doesn't get part of his colon ripped off and shoved up his gooch to make a fake vagina, then he will kill himself. And then he dies of necrosis because you put colon skin in the wrong place.
Yeah. It's still unbelievable to me that this is the timeline and this is the route stuff took, and how quickly they just are so willing to destroy all their science credibility just for this activistic reason.
I don't know. Are they though? Like, are they destroying their science credibility, or is this the same group of people? Like, is this always through every point in history the same group of people that flips shit about like satanic panic and is now flipping shit about, Desnat saying Brigham Young did nothing wrong?
Yeah,
because it's the same exact argument. It's the same. It's like Jim. It is a weird thing to say because like he sounded like a fucking tyrant. But at any rate, it's Jim Bennett.
Like, even if you believe that Brigham Young was a prophet, he made mistakes.
It's pretty fucking difficult. You have to basically say he's God and he is incapable of making mistakes because he is the moral paradigm or the moral paragon.
So
I wanted to put something together like this because I try to explain statistical distributions to people who say that sex is a spectrum. And I'm like, no, what's the statistical distribution of 50.5% on one side and 49.4% on the other side? Like, with scattered in between. Like, that's binary, motherfucker.
Yeah, and even those in betweens, he goes into detail about that. I put it in the comments. This is Colin Wright. He's got this whole.
They're not even just exceptions that prove the rule. Like people that get counted as intersex in certain.
That's not a spectrum.
It's like people within a woman within a large clitoris or a man with a micro penis. In some instances, will be counted as intersex. That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
Your micro penis still produces small gametes.
At least for a couple years, they tried to say that we were just saying it's gender. That's a spectrum. We're not saying it's sexism. Now they just come right out.
No, they just moved right over and said there's no such thing as biological sex.
So he points out that, like, well, I mean, the whole entire thing, I put it in there. I mean, we won't listen to a ton of it, but even all these things, you see that these fall under, like the pink ones fall under female and the blue ones fall under male types of types of malformities. And it's just the sex part is absolutely, and biologists know this, it is a binary. That's all there is to it. It's gametes. It's, and then a lot of different people try to like come up with all sorts of obfuscations, and it's ridiculous that they bring that into the STEM field. But the whole deal was that they were just supposedly talking about social constructs and gender and that whole deal, and then they moved it on off to this. But it's so obviously obfuscation whenever they sit there trying to do it. But he, of course, he's a PhD in biology and this sort of stuff, but he's, of course, got nowhere he can go get a job now that he writes and talks about all this.
Yeah.
But his girlfriend Christina Buttons was the one who got kicked off the Daily Wire because she was mad that Matt Walsh got a little bit too gruff about. But she speaks out against it too.
I don't know. Like I think there's a lot that I don't love about Matt Walsh, but the Dylan Mulvaney thing, that seems like a weird thing that everybody got mad at. Like, he's a dick always. I don't know why that's a thing that he went too far.
I don't even know what this is.
It's when he said something about Dylan Mulvaney not looking beautiful and looking like a human deep fake who is stripped of all masculinity.
They got mad because they thought he
he's
went
like
harsh.
he's like a cartoon character.
Yeah, I know, he acts like a human.
So you said that's about as harsh as it got. Maybe he sounded like a little bit more gruff because
he's the guy who came up with woman face, or at least he popularized it, right?
Oh
yeah,
the verb,
which is a perfectly apt description of what Dylan Mulvaney is doing.
Oh, for sure.
You know, that thing's like, if I like even the like stereotypically girliest girls I've ever known are not even what Dylan Mulvaney acts like.
No, and actually the most accurate representation of Dylan Mulvaney you'll ever see is through guys who guys who make really, really dumb sexist jokes about like, I'm a stupid, irrational woman. Oh, this is a good
I watched this. This was a good one.
Yeah, so this is Matt Walsh this week. He's also been going through a
Mormon?
thing. He's a Mormon. He's an Australian Mormon.
He's the one he's Mormoner than Kevin because he's got one more kid.
Whoa!
Actually, I think it's one
so
less.
Mormon.
He has 5 kids.
I thought you said 7.
I was wrong.
Sorry, Kevin. I retract that.
So Matt Walsh this week went off. Initially started fighting with the quartering, but he went off about anime.
I'm not getting Matt Walsh.
So on the meme that I made for this episode, I put "No Country for Old Men," and I had
I know that. I like that.
That's great.
I had Walsh on there though. I had Walsh on there along with Jim Bennett.
I'm kidding. I'm just saying when it's a fight between Matt Walsh and the quartering, it's gonna be Matt Walsh for me usually.
Sure,
because it's a fight between anyone in the quartering. It'd be difficult if him and Candace Owens ever go head to head. I
think YouTube finally figured out that I watched 15 seconds of quartering and then I'm done because I don't even get the.
No, you have to watch 15 seconds, then you have to jump his coffee commercial and then hear the next 15 seconds to hear what the actual headline is.
Yeah, that's right.
I used to get his shorts all the time, and I don't know why I was never subscribed to him because he annoys me.
Yeah,
but
I don't
no,
know. Like I started him way back when he was a nobody, and he was talking about exposing the pedophiles in Magic the Gathering tournaments. And because that was interesting to me, just because I was like, holy shit, I guess I should have figured, but well, there you go. And then he turned it into a career, and then he just became basically a tabloid, and it was boring.
So he'd given some sort of criticism or something to Matt Walsh about how to do stuff or how to stop going after anime and stop going after gamers or something like that. And Matt Walsh doubled down into that. And it's one of the reasons I put him on the No Country for Old Men poster is because Matt Walsh is a boomer about entertainment.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And which is kind of funny because the Daily Wire.
I wonder if his kids even can watch Veggie Tales. Is that too childish?
Yeah, it's kind of funny because look who is here. We got Kevin here.
What?
Oh yeah. Sorry, Kevin.
I don't forgive you, Jared.
He had somebody challenge his kid amount. He had to come in and say, "I got more kids." He had to flex his kid amount on him.
Fetch you,
That's
man.
Right.
So this fella, a bunch of people don't answer him, especially like from like that neurotic world. But they've been fighting just recently. I was telling you guys, Gavin McInnes went on their screen and was just lighting into all of them, saying that they're ridiculous losers for still being into Marvel and still being into nerdy things and all that sort of stuff. And he was trying to come after them and saying, "Are any of you even married? Didn't even have kids? Are you guys all in your basements with your moms and all that sort of stuff?"
Man.
And each one of them
that's such a stupid, like the whole like in your mom's basement thing. That's so fucking played out by now.
Well, like each one of them had more kids than McInnes did, and each one of them were married, and each one of them were gainfully employed and had jobs and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But what this guy goes into here as I said, this is a Mormon dude in Australia. It's kind of interesting, but he appears constantly on Friday Night Tights with Neurotic and all that stuff. But look here, he even like calls to, he even pulls up a scripture of Book of Mormon for people.
Yeah, see, I should have known because like he brought up the Book of Mormon, and I thought maybe he was just a guy who'd done a lot of reading about Christianity. I didn't peg him as a Mormon the way he was talking. I just thought he was a regular old Christian. But
well, you wouldn't tag him because he's Australian. But,
that
this
too.
scripture from the Book of Mormon in Mosiah chapter 3, verse 19. For the natural man is an enemy to God, and has been from the fall of Adam, and will be forever and ever, unless he yields to the enticings of the Holy Spirit, and putteth off the natural man, and becometh a saint through the atonement of Christ the Lord, and becometh as a child, submissive, meek, humble, patient.
he's just pulling up a bunch of different articles about, because they always pull up a Bible verse that says you need to put aside childish things. I think that comes.
And I
from
just also
Paul.
wonder, like, as a matter of strategy, does quoting the Book of Mormon just totally like lose all credibility with Matt Walsh because he's a Christian who probably
I don't
doesn't
know.
accept Mormonism
That'd
as a
be
Christian?
pretty. I don't
Probably.
I don't know that Matt Walsh would want to.
Because that's one of those things where it's like whatever issues you might have with the Book of Mormon, like that passage is that in any conflict with Christian doctrine in any way? I don't think so.
There's a lot of passages that shouldn't be in.
Dan might think so.
I know. Dan doesn't believe in the church. He believes the church has just been negotiated by people who want to be in power.
Oh, he just had a long.
And Dan
episode
wants
on
to be
that
in power,
today.
so he's renegotiating thing in his favor. Well, go figure.
Everything was discourses. When you hear people use discourses that come out of college, you are hearing Foucault. When you hear them drop it every other sentence, just so people know. But anyway, what was interesting about all this, and why I say it's like No Country for Old Men, because we're gonna get into maybe the Jim Bennett stuff too, and you have Brad Whitbeck, who's like probably the nicest, most out of all the Midnight Mormons, right? He can hold his back, but he's the nicest, most pleasant little Mormon guy. This guy's a nice, pleasant little Mormon guy and all that stuff. And these guys are the ones going out in the world and defending violence in video games for us. These guys are the ones going out defending violent memeing. These guys are the ones going out there saying, hey, you boomers don't understand this. And this is once again me not understanding the upside down world that we've gotten into, where we've got these meek, used in the Jordan Peterson style, meek guys telling us, hey, chill out on this violent stuff, chill out on anime, chill out on video games, chill out on memes, chill out on internet memes, chill out on Tarantino memes. This guy even gave like a review. He's a big Dungeons and Dragons fan. And to tell you, like, coming out of the people who lived through the satanic panic and people freaking out about Dungeons and Dragons, and now all the way on the flip end side of it, we got these meek Mormon guys telling us to chill out about it. You're making my head spin again, because once again, why are we the ones with the wet rag on top of ourselves? And
I'll be right back. My son has shat himself.
Yeah, that loser in his basement with the no kids. But I don't know.
Who's the Mormoniest now?
Yeah, no,
he's off Mormoning.
Doesn't he have a wife for that kind of thing?
Yeah, he needs to take a lesson from Crowder.
Yeah. Just put the gloves on and change the shitty diaper.
Yeah. Where's my cigar?
Oh, what was that meme? Should I pull up that meme of that one?
I don't know.
But what's funny about that is, oh, what was I gonna say? Dang it, I'll pull up that meme. Hold on. It's straight chipping me out that we're in this planet where the people defending the violent media, and that's why I said is No Country for Old Men, because there's some level, if you watch the Jim Bennett thing, and you just kind of get that the guy just doesn't get the world that he's interacting with. He's out of the loop. He doesn't quite and he wants to paint it in the worst possible freaky fashion. But it's the same with Matt Walsh. Like Matt Walsh, you got the Daily Wire, who is there trying to present themselves as the ones who are going to save the culture. They're going to save the culture by indulging in the culture. And then they're all such sticks in the mud about culture that like you guys can't be it if you're gonna be these types of sticks in the mud. Like you gotta embrace nerd world. You gotta embrace games. You gotta embrace Lord of the Rings. You gotta embrace whatever. If you guys want to be it, this is the meme I was talking about. The point of view if you're Steven Crowder and he's like drinking a beer and he's got a pregnant wife mowing the lawn.
I saw that meme, but I didn't see the caption.
Yeah. But yeah,
Bob Bennett became senator in '93. How old was Jim Bennett in 1993? He's probably an adult already.
Yeah.
But I just kind of want, because you talk about like, you know, because like I don't know if like having a dad for senator is probably being in kind of a bubble.
Oh yeah, for sure. He did all sorts of weird stuff. Like on one of the shows, he said he got to meet Howard Hughes and hang out with Howard Hughes and stuff.
That sounds like he swam in Howard Hughes's pool. That
would freak me out. That would make me think he peed in the pool, man. Like Howard Hughes was. Howard Hughes
like, no, you pee in the jars, damn it. That's what I have them for.
Yeah. So this guy makes the whole entire case. One of his things is he reviews. He's with the Nerdrotic guys. He reviews movies and stuff, and he gets sick and tired of like the wokeism and all that stuff. But his channel became big, Night's Watch, because he is an expert in medieval weaponry.
Yeah, I actually have watched a lot of his stuff. He's good.
Yeah, no,
and he
I have no idea who this guy was, but I liked him.
He critiques
swordplay and stuff.
Swordplay in movies and stuff, and it drives him crazy if it's ridiculous. Although he'll give some passes to it. Of course, you got to. It's the films.
No, see, I can kind of this Matt Walsh stuff is always easy for me to ignore when he's a cock, because like he always has. I was explaining this in the chat. He always has the same opinion as my dad on everything. And I remember as a very young kid just disregarding his opinion on nerd shit like immediately, because he'd be like, this Zelda game, and he'd try to piss you off and be like, oh, look, you're Zelda. He's trying to tell your character's Zelda. He knows that riles you up. But anyway, he's making fun of Zelda, telling me, this is a stupid game. Play traditional video games, like whatever the fuck that means. And I remember having this great moment in the Ocarina of Time. It was the first Zelda game I ever played. I was a really little kid, where there's that part where you go up to the castle for the first time. You're still little Link with your shitty wooden shield and your little knife. And Ganondorf, the big bad guy, comes out at you. And he's the final boss, but he's at the beginning of the game. And he's like, where did the princess go? And Link kind of backs up because he's scared, and he draws his sword and his shield. And I was this little kid, and I got chills because I was like, oh man, he knows he's going to get his ass, and then he gets his ass kicked. But he knows he's going to get his ass kicked, and he pulls his sword out anyway. So fuck you, Dad. I learned from Zelda. Fuck you, Matt Walsh. Zelda's awesome.
But that's what all these guys are saying. They're saying that we got a lot of our more conservative-ish values from these games, not from you, Matt Walsh. Yeah. Like we these anime, and a ton of Japanese anime that you dunk on so much, is some of the only cartoonish stuff that's coming out nowadays that holds traditional values, that holds values of the hero's journey, that holds on to redemptive values, that hold on to family values, and all that.
Like, well, remember, like, because I mean, my caption, I played Doom as a kid, but Doom was a follow-on to Wolfenstein, and Wolfenstein was like, oh my god, it's a game, it's a first-person shooter. It's one of the first. It was the first-person shooter, and it was 100% about killing Nazis.
In the discussion of violence, I mentioned that this Ronnie Kenshin, Samurai X, this one, is graphically violent. And this is a subject that I've thought about a lot over my whole life. But I mean, people have really looked into the impact of, say, violent video games, violent media, if it makes people more violent, and it doesn't. I know I've experienced this in my own life as well as many points of evidence where...
Is he going to read violent Book of Mormon passages? Because that's a thing that never made sense to me, is when my mom wouldn't let me watch like Lord of the Rings because they get stabbed or whatever, and she's like, go back and read your Book of Mormon, where they talk about how the Lamanites raped women to death and then ate their flesh.
Become more violent.
I'm just gonna read the one about the two armies that battled each other until there was just two guys left, until one cut the other guy's head off and then died.
I'm not shitting on the Book of Mormon, Mom.
Yeah,
I'm
Oh, what
shitting
about
on
the
you.
guy with the
Captured
bag of
head.
arms? Who was the guy? I've been out too long. Who's the guy with the bag of arms?
Hammond.
Gammon.
That's right.
Book of Mormon is metal.
Oh my god, that needs that. Oh, that'd be the best Metalocalypse episode.
Mhm.
Playing board games, the frustration and other things, and certain other puzzle games that just people are unable to, win. Even playing chess, okay, that I've seen people playing video games. Now, there's like if it's a competitive video game, the competitive nature can cause people to be a bit agitated as well. But in terms of just single person playing a video game, I've seen more people get triggered playing puzzle games than violent video games. And there's another perspective that I'd like people to consider, because I actually feel every man who wants to become a provider and protector needs to be able to cultivate a great capacity for violence that is paired equally with a capacity for control. Okay, control and violence are masculine virtues that I think people should encourage. Now, when I talk about this, right, I find it interesting that people will criticize video games, which is a type of simulation of violence, okay, but they don't criticize other things, which are actually simulations of violence as well. Competitive sports, a lot of competitive sports are a simulation of a type of warfare. But if you want to actually make a more direct comparison, look at martial arts, all right? Punching a boxing bag, punching a dummy that is in the, shape of a person is simulated violence. Yet training in martial arts gives people self-control and often results in them being less violent and less prone to resorting to violence than not. And it comes
There's
to
nothing more
video
dangerous
games, I
than a
find it
weak
interesting.
man. You have to have capability of great violence in order to be an honorable man. It's like, yeah, man.
Yeah, well, he does that.
Hey, Chris, I just shared a meme with you on,
Yeah,
on
I'm
in the
grabbing.
chat. Put that up.
Oh man.
If we make guns illegal, no one will ever get shot. That's how we stopped everyone from doing drugs.
Yeah, why don't we have a war on guns? Let's make gun
They need
violence
to have
illegal.
They need to
Man,
have Patrick Mason's head put on there.
The Surfs was on Tim Pool tonight, and I was listening to some of that before, and they were getting into the gun debate. But of course, first they were talking about Bum Floyd, who got killed on the subway. You guys been following that?
On our inability
Oh my
to
God.
differentiate
Yeah, the guy
between
that-
different Commonwealth accents. The Blue Meanie is telling us that guy's a New Zealander.
Oh my goodness! I don't think he is. I think he's Australian. The New
Well, yeah,
Zealander
we don't
was.
know. They all sound
Yeah,
the same
no,
to
I don't know
us.
about that. New Zealanders, every vowel is a long E.
Well, I actually Blue
Different.
Meanie is an Australian, isn't he? But I think he says he
Yeah,
lives
isn't
in
he?
Australia. But
I don't know, but maybe he's from the part of Australia where they don't sound like New Zealanders.
Yeah. But on that Nerdotic show, maybe I don't know. Maybe
Yeah, I'll
he
be
is.
honest.
But
New
I thought he
Zealand
says he
and
lives in
Australian
Australia.
sound exactly the same to me.
But
Can the Blue Meanie
can't
tell
tell
a
that.
Texan from a Georgian? I wonder.
Probably, I can.
Well, we should be able to. That thing is like, have you ever tried
we got
differentiating?
Steve
Because
Pinecker.
that's the thing that blows my mind about England is because like Liverpool and Manchester have two distinct accents. Driving from Liverpool to Manchester is like driving from Salt Lake to Provo. And
Are there
yet,
different
they're two
accents?
different dialected worlds. Like,
Yeah,
they
you
have
know,
two distinct accents.
You get this.
it's true in
then,
some
like-
New York areas, right?
Well, yeah. Because that's things like we just have like there's just sort of the Midwestern standard that's like most of America, and then there's like all the regional things. Because like within Georgia, even because the Savannah accent is a distinct thing. And then like there's East Texas and West Texas; those are different things.
I may not be a big city lawyer, but
Dang it, man! They don't have a transcript on this Jim Bennett episode.
Oh.
Stinks. Hold on. Oh, come on, Charlie.
I don't know. Look for the
Charlie,
part where
don't.
it looks like he gets really worked up.
I'll narrow that down.
That's how I picture Jim Bennett. Like,
Oh,
Bill
really?
was not present in that, and
Dang it! So I wanted to pull up like the parts where, because I mean this whole entire thing.
so
is
I don't
worthwhile.
like for the backstory here. Like his beef with Bill Reel, wasn't it like some more kind of like his beef currently with he was talking with Midnight Mormons about how like they use this musket fire thing and they're threatening to kill me or what, and they're trying to explain to him, no, this is just kind of a meme thing. He's like, they think just because I'm old I don't get it. And then, but wasn't that the exact thing he had with Bill Reel, where he was like, I can't believe you used a clip of mine on my YouTube channel without asking? And he's like, that's just kind of how people do it on YouTube. You might
No. You're thinking of Rick Bennett.
Oh, other Bennett. I always get him
Rick
confused.
Bennett from a different channel, and he mouthed off to Bill Reel about using his clip because that's not proper ESPN etiquette or something like that. This is Jim Bennett and Bill Reel only had a beef because they did like some 14-hour long episode about his CES letter response, and Bill felt that at the end of that CES letter response that Jim felt that Bill acted like he'd won some debate at the end of it or something like that.
Oh,
And so
well,
he
I
thought
mean,
it was-
what's Jim's IQ?
Is
Upwards
he
of
informed?
1,000.
Is he even informed?
Dang it, man! I wish this thing had a transcript because there is one part, and I showed this. Like Brad Whitbeck was looking at it, and there is one part where Jim Bennett, in the middle of all this, getting upset about all the violence of the possible musket fires and all that stuff, which they went over with the things. He says that he like wants to kick them in the face for how they're talking. That is in here.
He's like this stereotypical
Oh, it is there.
angry
Hold
old
on.
man screaming at the sky.
Here, I'll pull that.
I think Abe Simpson when I
We've clipped it before, but the only scene from Saved that I remember was when Mandy Moore hurls the Book of Mormon at the girl screaming, I am filled with Christ's love!
Here it is. Here it is.
I'm angry because I don't understand.
Listen.
last week, but we'll see if I did.
Can I finish?
Jim,
Jim?
you had a long time.
Sure,
Can I
you
finish?
Finish.
Okay, then
Sure, you
don't,
can
please
finish.
don't
I
interrupt.
wanted to kick him in the face when he said that.
Violence! Brad Whitbeck, file a restraining order against Jim Bennett. He is instigating violence against. He wanted to kick you in the face. How could that be taken anything other than literally?
It's my problem with him is that like I don't mind him getting salty and internet and all that stuff. It's just that when he's suddenly acts like all of these guys, every single one of them, when they suddenly act like they're the ones who've been on the high road this whole time and taken all these high roads and so smart and good and proper and all this sorts of stuff and open to discourse, open to criticism, and if we all just got open to discourse and criticism, we'd all be fine. And you just go, no, that's not the game that's been being played at all by any of you at all. You know, like, shut up. Let's see what moments do we want to pull from this? I mean, it was just more kind of throwing those guys under the bus for, I guess, kind of going after him, and then, you know.
Watching Jim Bennett is tough because it's like I'm serious. He looks like somebody who is forming opinions in real time, live, and he like goes kind of back and he looks like he wants to burn. He simultaneously wants to burn every and no bridge. He's
strange because like,
yelling about these guys being dishonest and stuff. He's like, but I do love them because I still want to be on their channel.
He's a really nice guy for being as big a dickhead as he is. Like, it's really weird. Like you like him so much, and he seems so affable, but he's also such a dickhead.
I think Twitter did this to him. I wonder what he was like before Twitter, because I think he's just addicted because like he was tweeting RFM during General Conference. He's like sitting by the fucking prophet. He's
funny.
Like he's tweeting from his Apple Watch because I can't pull out my phone. It's like, yeah, that would be uncouth of you, Jim.
Yeah, because we can't go through all the whole entire stuff, but what like melts my brain about this, what melts my brain, the same thing of why King's Knight was the guy telling Matt Walsh to chill out, is that we got Brad Whitbeck explaining memes to him here. You know, No Country for Old Men. Again, he doesn't follow like the stuff, all the violence. If you've ever watched that movie, part of the joke of it is like the old, not a joke, but I mean it is a joke. It's actually why my name's the judge tonight.
Yeah, you doing a Cormac McCarthy thing?
That's from Blood Meridian. That's Blood Meridian, the judge. Yeah,
I'd have been the kid.
The kid, the judge, and who's Flip? What are you? Played Doom as a child. Oh, that's why you're so violent. And the Mormoniest. Oh, that's Kevin. All right.
Yeah, he was real salty about me thinking that guy was Mormoner than him.
There's Marty. And Maple Lake Mountain. I feel for Jim Bennett. I like the guy. I think Desnat broke him, and Quake agreed with him in these episodes. Yeah. The Cormac McCarthy thing is like in that whole entire episode, in that whole movie, the Tommy Lee Jones character, who is the law, just never catches up with any of it. I hate to spoil it for you, but that's just what happens. Is like the law is just never is even there or present for any of the story. If you watch the whole entire thing, he doesn't catch up to it, doesn't get it. He's just always there behind it afterwards and seeing the aftermath of the whole entire thing. And that's kind of the joke. It's the same with Matt Walsh. It's like, you guys don't understand stuff that's not that tough to understand, but you just stonewall things. You stonewall stuff so hard.
Well, it's like he's saying that certain types of the Matt Walsh thing is annoying because he's saying that certain types of stories are inferior to other types of story. Like there's good stories and bad stories. That's it. Because like when people say, "Do you like anime?" Like what anime are you talking about? Like talk about the specific
big
one,
genre.
Because like Death Note gets into some pretty cool deep stuff, like some pretty philosophical shit about like when it's okay to kill people and what that power would do to somebody's head. But I don't know. Then you get like Pokemon, and that doesn't really get very deep.
But then, so like right here, it's not like these memes are deep, but this is like thug life memeing. It's straight, it's internet meme stuff, and they've tried to explain to them what those memes are, like explain to them what the Tarantino memes are. They say Tarantino's from my time. That's not young kid stuff. Like, the prequel memeing has nothing to do with the prequels that got released 20 years ago. There's a current modern day.
Plus that
Tarantino
movie was from 2010, so it's not.
I really wonder, like.
But the memeing life that takes off from those things aren't the original thing. That's the simulacra. That's the Baudrillard simulacra, the stuff that goes down the line that we've been talking about.
Just to explain to Jim Bennett, because like I recently joined a Discord group with my kid and all of his gaming buddies, and they use memes like crazy. And I've asked them, like, "Oh, that's a great movie." They're like, "Oh, never saw it." You're using the meme, but like
nowadays they think Michael Jordan is a crying meme. That's what Michael Jordan is. Michael Jordan's whole entire career to a young little Zoomer kid is a crying meme. That's who Michael Jordan is. And this is like a thug life meme. And you got meek Mormon, one of the most meek guys, Brad, trying to explain to him memes. And this is what I'm saying. Is like, I've got two different Mormon guys this week trying to explain to old No Country for Old Men boomers what's going on the internet or in the world and all that stuff, and why they do have to interact in that realm, because you guys are all the ones talking about losing all the kids, and 1/4 of the kids nowadays have now fall into queer theory stuff or whatever.
I know they always joke about it, but Brad Whitbeck has my sustaining vote for Prophet 2050. Like, I'm down with it. If the future of the church has to go one direction, I think it should go with that guy.
But Jim Bennett will keep like strategically equivocating, saying you guys got to play. You got to be the gospel. You got to be the gospel. You got to be the gospel. But then, you're losing all the millennials because why? Because they're the whole rest of the people who are pulling them out get to work with the entire rest of the universe of Babylon, and these guys just can only cite scriptures at them. Is that what you're saying, Jim Bennett? Like that's the way they can only get the youth back, by citing scriptures at them. Like these guys are just playing around in the world in the sandbox that it is.
The gun thing with the meme. Are you familiar with image flip, Jim? Do you know what that is?
I don't care what it is.
I don't care what.
Did you know that?
Jesus.
Did you guess that?
Well, then just admit that you don't need to be in this conversation. You just excused yourself from it.
But he stonewalls like that so often. Like they talk about, this kid the other week tried to bring up to him, like, what is love? What's the definition of love? Like, I don't care. We don't talk about. And to me, so much of that experience is what he keeps talking about. Who are we turning off to Mormonism? What turned me off to Mormonism is that, Jim Bennett, the guy who doesn't get it, stonewalls, shuts down, has no clue what's going on in the world, and then just assumes you're evil like a dipshit and a dick. Like you were what turned me off to Mormonism, but I'm a Gen X.
He's just like knee jerk the person. I don't know. Maybe I haven't listened to enough of him to have the same soft spot for him that you guys do, but I can't stand him.
Jim Bennett?
Yeah.
I have a soft spot. I don't know.
I
Not you. I
think he's perfectly fine. And
I don't think it wasn't you. There was a couple people in
there.
the.
But he's weirdly intransigent.
There was a couple people said they like him, but
I liked his him talking about Under the Banner of Heaven, but I was also kind of describing to Brad Whitbeck, but he kind of gets this. But the whole point of that show, Under the Banner of Heaven, was to do the concept creep of saying regular Mormons are as dangerous as
Put up that there's a comment from Latter-day Skeptic where I think he really hits the nail on the head there. Like 4, 5, 6 comments back now, it's growing. You see the one? It says, he's at Maple Leaf Mountain. I have a soft spot for Jim, but you can't be the guy on Midnight Mormons trying to justify unconditional love while shit-talking Desnets. Yeah, exactly. There we go. Yeah, there you go, Jim.
I think almost no person who talks about unconditional love really understands what that word would fucking mean. Unconditional.
But he spent so much time talking about like to appeal to people that we gotta love everybody, without realizing that the whole entire premise is that he's already othered a major amount of people right from the super start. Like you're the otherer, Jim. And let's see here. Mormon book reviews. As Steve says, Jim's a friend of mine. Steve, everybody's a friend of yours. Come on, man.
Yeah, you're just nice, man. It doesn't count.
Is that Pinnaker? Steve Pinnaker?
Yeah.
I still am a little fuzzy on. I see his name everywhere, but I haven't seen this stuff. But he's an evangelical that's into Mormons.
Yeah, not just into him. Like he knows everything.
But he's not the gay one. That's another guy that's a gay Mormon book reviewer.
Steve came out on John Dehlин's podcast.
Yeah.
Wait, Steve Pinnaker?
Yeah,
the guy we're talking about. Oh, yeah. So he's the gay evangelical that's into Mormons.
Yeah,
boy,
and generally conservative.
No, that's the thing is like I was gonna say like that's the thing is like because he could go into one of those parties I've heard about where it's 70 naked men in a house and there's a lot of leather and bondage gear and whips and he's the freak in the room. He's the weirdest one. Everybody looks at him like, what the fuck is going on with you?
He's also the guy showing that it's not a nightmare if he talks to Jacob Hansen. It's not a nightmare if he talks to Cliff. It's not a nightmare if he talks to, like, he can talk to everybody. I mean, he gets hell for it, but everybody gets a little bit of hell for it. And that's the other thing we're going to talk about, maybe Patrick Mason this week. But
he's the Audie Murphy of homosexuality. He's just so brave.
It seems appropriate for today. Jim, Chris's impersonation reminds me of the Gungan. He says more libertarian.
He says more libertarian, but like libertarian is, you might as well be a fucking Nazi, man.
Yeah.
Nah, he's able to surf.
Isn't that just a dog whistle for Proud Boy?
Yeah.
He's amphibious. He can swim and. He can swim in land.
This weird thing in the world where he's a free thinker.
Walk in water.
He has his ideas, and he can walk around in society and be tolerant of people who have other ideas.
Every now and then,
what a freak!
Every now and then, because Mormon history is just intriguing. I've realized that because, like, I thought I just was obsessed with it because I left the Mormon church, but no, it's actually intriguing to a lot of people. And every now and then, there's somebody like from outside that jumps into it and the ex-Mormon community eats it up. And there was that one guy, the My Book of Mormon podcast or whatever, who like he went to the Book of Mormon musical and he's like, oh, read the book, okay. And then he read it and made a podcast about it. And like the ex-Mormon community loved it. I can't remember his name because it's been years and years now. Like every now and then you'll get somebody from outside that just gets really fascinated with it. And I get it because it's fascinating.
Yeah.
No, I think Steve's going to be around for a while because I mean,
I think he will.
He's getting in with you, but on top of that too is like he's not just fascinated like he read the Wikipedia article. Like he's a encyclopedia about a bunch of Mormon stuff like you wouldn't believe.
So while he's here, he can confirm: is it Pinnaker?
I don't think he can confirm.
It's Pinnaker.
Is it Pinnaker? Because that sounds like a sexual thing.
But I mean, going along with what Forrest says, like, and Troy says he likes him because he speaks his mind. all of that is always been my point. Is like we're South Parkian, you know what I mean? Like if we're South Parkian, like embrace it. That everybody should be able to embrace it and talk and interact and not like suddenly stop and go. You said a naughty and a musket, and you're right out somebody
like
to
his
the other to
mind-
not talk to.
His mind is like the best argument for hardline determinism ever, because it's just whatever is right in front of him. He just bow, bow, and then later he'll be like, yeah, "Nah, I went a little too hard on that," but
Yeah, I'll back off. But
I
that's
don't
part
know.
of the point.
And I haven't
And
watched
then-
enough of him. I need to back off of him because I don't know him that well. But the little bit that I've watched,
But then, like later on, there's so much of RFM and Bill Real bragging about how they are the high road. Yeah, right. No, you guys are internety and jokey and goofy, which is fine. But stop turning around and saying that you guys. I mean, to me, that was always Pharisaic behavior. You had like some missionary on your mission who'd always sleep in every single day or something, and then you're like late to a meeting, and they're the ones bitching you out. And that to me is ubiquitous through Mormonism. Either side of it, like you're the one doing the shit, but then suddenly when you're pointing the fingers, you guys are the ones who are above it, and it's just like no, like we're all in the muck, we're all in the freaking muck, you know. Stop stopping and trying to pretend like you've been the ones who've been higher.
Just to we'll try to give a little perspective to this, because as much shit talking as we've done about Jim today, he's still 1,000 times better than John Dehlin.
Why? Watch a damn episode.
I see
your last name of it all the time though. But I've seen.
Yeah, I've watched a bunch of your episodes. I know.
If I ever have, like, you know what you can do to fuck with me is say his name a different way for the start of the next 6 episodes.
No, it's French. It's Pinecha. I've watched a bunch of episodes, so I know that. Yeah, Pinecha.
Yeah. But yeah, so they get down to the end and they start saying stuff like, we just need to have more open discourses, and this is the answers to get out of all this stuff and do it. And we're like, sure, yeah, but you guys don't do that. Like I saw you say we were going to talk about with Jacob Hansen, and you have these list of things you're allowed to talk about. If Jacob Hansen is going to come on, like he can't push back on you or talk to you at all. But we've already seen plenty of other people are perfectly capable and fine of talking to Jacob Hansen. But if you guys have to have some super long curated list, if he's allowed to talk to you at all. I just have to call out Bill Real in the chat about not going on his brother's podcast. Maybe took him. Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I actually jumped in at that point. I saw the part in the chat where she basically told Forrest, what was it? It was like, maybe, like, I guess your brother might be capable of having like level-headed discussion, but he's really, really, really bad at portraying that. I don't know. Like,
what?
Yeah, that's what she claimed. And I'm like, I don't know. Have you watched his stuff? Because like, I think you're just judging that based off Twitter blood sports.
I missed Twitter.
You guys want to see?
Sports was a while ago.
You guys want to hear the 10 Commandments according to Chat GPT?
Consent and empathy. I bet will be
consentaphy.
Fuck.
Change it to lead a better human society.
Jacob is not an honest that. Yes, he is. He's a believing Mormon. Like, he's not disingenuous. He might be wrong about stuff, but he's a serious person.
Yeah, and
I'm just reading the Latter-day Skeptics comments here.
Yeah.
Like, no, because that's like on Thoughtful Faith. There are some dishonest actors on Thoughtful Faith. We've been talking to them in the last few days. But
well, yeah, the guy
Jacob, like that's the thing. Like Jacob's one of the guys where you have to like he will engage, which is the most honest thing you can do when you're in those situations where when you're coming from such wildly different foundations.
The last 20 years, 30 years of apologists, like what better are you asking for? Like what more? Well, I guess you're asking for Patrick Mason, a guy who comes in and just bends over.
I'm so sorry about my closely held beliefs. I'm so sorry.
Like you need somebody who actually defends the stuff to actually talk to people.
Well,
about
so
it. Like
I
the
think
concept that everybody's always been wanting.
Maven's beef with him, I think, said it was something along the lines of she got into a spat with him on Twitter, and she asked him a question that she thought was a mic drop, but he didn't answer it. And later he said, "I'll talk to you later. I'm going on a Twitter sabbatical for now." And in her mind, that was like him dodging it by going on a Twitter sabbatical.
He said that that's not how that happened at all.
Oh, I'm sure it's not exactly how it happened at all. It's just funny that she would say that he's trying to dodge a question when she didn't even consider addressing Flip's question.
But just this
about
last,
can a 14-year-old consent to gender surgery or gender?
But just this 2-3 weeks ago. So
care.
those guys were talking about last night on this thing again and again and again that we need not a debate, just an open discourse where anything can be talked about. Well, Jacob sent to me the list of stuff that you're allowed to talk about if he's going to talk with Jacob. Like there's a specified list, and we must stay on topic about this, and we're not allowed to get outside of these topics. And that's not an open, honest discourse.
Yeah.
Like everybody should be like how Forrest did with his brother. Like when they argue, sometimes Forrest is on the spot. Like, and that's what we've always been saying is like you, Dehlin, and you, these guys need to be put on the spot. Like we started out talking about Shermer and all that sorts of stuff. Is we want your rationality and your worldviews tested just as hard as you're going around testing. And if we can all do that, I'll stop complaining. Come on.
So how far away are we from atheists literally worshiping AI?
Right here.
Oh, we made it already.
And it's similar to our conversation today. So I asked Chat GPT to recreate the 10 Commandments based on modern values. And so I want to leave this with what Chat
modern
GPT has
audiences.
Was that the input? I
situation
just wonder, was that
based
the
on-
actual specific input?
I bet it
Not
was.
to mention, I have another clip where Bill Reel says, and those other people say that they take Sapiens as like the new Bible. And I've been reading all the Noah Harari stuff, and I take Noah Harari to be a sociopath, but that's me. But
on kind of the values we have as society today. And some of these are similar to our list. So number 1, thou shalt not perpetuate systems of oppression or marginalization, but actively work to dismantle them to promote equality and justice for all. Simple.
Man, all she had to say was to modern audiences, and it's like, oh, I know what fucking retard language I need to speak now.
For 2, thou shalt not ignore or dismiss the experiences and perspectives of marginalized groups, but instead listen deep and learn from their wisdom and lived experiences.
I like this.
I knew you would. Number 3, thou shalt not prioritize individual gain or profit over the well-being of the community and the planet, but instead work towards sustainability and collective well-being.
man.
Number 4.
That's the Democratic Party platform.
Hey, wait a minute. Haven't you listened to any Dan McClellan? Didn't you know the Bible's a Democrat?
That was the Democrat. I keep forgetting.
So much better.
Gosh dang it.
God,
Don't realize the Bible's always been a 2023 Democrat.
Oh my
and the
God.
people are just barely figuring it out now.
The original 10 Commandments, for all of its weirdness and flaws, is so much better than this.
Yeah, they haven't even said don't kill anybody yet. What the fuck?
Yeah.
God can't do near as good as artificial
Oh my gosh,
intelligence.
I know.
What are you
if
talking
this came down from a mountain on tablets, I would be tempted
How
to
would you
believe
interpret
that there
use
was
my
a
name
God.
in vain.
How are you going to interpret this?
There is a God.
Bring
Don't
it
you
down?
know? We're all moving towards a transhumanist God. We're all moving towards this AI God. It's all coming.
Wow.
We were good to do it. And this
Wow.
AI God.
It did way better than God, who first said, well, don't kill anybody. Let's start off with that. The AI didn't say anything about that. Concerning that's not your first fucking moral rule.
I can't believe the AI bot's a 2023 Democrat, just like the Bible.
All right, number 4, thou shalt cultivate a deep sense of compassion and empathy toward all
Oh,
living
fuck.
beings, recognizing their inherent worth and dignity. Number 5, thou shalt not engage in harmful or destructive behaviors towards oneself or others, but instead prioritize physical, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Number 6, thou shalt continuously seek knowledge, growth,
I gotta tell
learning,
you,
and
I just did a sober month. I do 3 of them every year, and it was April, and now it's May.
Oh,
And
look at you.
This is my first weekend that I'm going to be drinking again, but my hard rule is only one time on the weekend, right? And it's not going to be tonight. but I was really considering it being tonight, and I almost made a drinking game up, knowing we were going to be doing this. I'm so fucking glad I didn't, because I would be.
I might join you to listen to this.
I'm permanently drunk because I drink anytime Dan McClellan drops one of his tropes. So I just blasted everywhere I go now.
Embracing new ideas and perspectives with curiosity and openness. Imagine if that was one of the 10 commandments when we were in religion. Number seven,
back then. Back when you were.
7, thou shalt not engage in dishonest or deceitful practices in one's personal or professional life.
Thou
but
shalt
instead
not lie.
cultivate a
It was
spirit of
already
honesty
fucking there. Or
and
thou shalt not bear
transparency
false witness.
in all dealings.
In no place does that.
How,
say that in the
my
Bible.
mind is spinning with the many lies of Blue Church from just the last 6 years. Like, can we throw, like, remember many episodes ago, I don't know who it was, but that there was that Twitter guy that just did that list of leftist lies, and it was hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them.
Yeah, well, one of them right now is that a Michael Jackson performing guy was just asking for food, and so people killed him on the train. That's what happened there.
Yeah, that's how that goes. That's an everyday thing in America.
Whew. Number 8, thou shalt actively work towards building bridges and promoting understanding and collaboration between diverse individuals and communities. Number 9, thou shalt not use one's power and privilege to uplift and empower those. Thou shalt use one's power and privilege to uplift and empower those who have been historically marginalized or oppressed. Number 10, thou shalt recognize the interconnectedness of all beings and the environment and work towards creating a more just, equitable, and sustainable world for all.
Except for white people.
I could have just written the World Economic Forum list for you guys yourself. You didn't need that whole AI bot. I think the AI bots are a bit early. I could have been this AI bot.
I know.
The building bridges thing, it really bugs me, because I was thinking about Mormons building bridges. It's like, you guys blew up the bridge and then you mined the river. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Man. So here's.
So you mentioned Sapiens, Yuval Harari. Anybody who hasn't read that book, I would highly recommend it. It was so influential to me, beginning to understand. I've got it on my shelf back there.
I call it the post-Mormon Bible.
A lot of people that's actually how Landon and I met. We met on Reddit, just anonymously, both listening about this amazing.
Oh man, I was thinking.
Guys, I believe in predeterminism again. I'm sorry. That's all. I guess.
That's the most like the classic soy jack theme. We met on Reddit talking about Sapiens by Yuval Harari.
And also, that lady is just like, who was that famous televangelist with the hair and the makeup? You know what I'm talking about? Like, she's like the ex-Mormon version of that.
Peter Popoff.
No, it's the other one. Like, her name escapes me. The 700 Club guys.
Oh, Pat Robertson.
I don't know. There's so many of them.
No,
it wasn't Pat Robertson.
I know you're talking about a woman.
You know who I'm talking about? She looked like a clown.
Yeah.
Mormon.
Posting about this amazing.
Yeah. She got started with Steve and Steve.
No, I'll tell you. I started. I started Sapiens the same time you did, and I'm really good at consuming media that I hate. It's actually most of what I do, and it's kind of a problem. Like, me and my wife like watching shitty movies together. I like reading shitty books sometimes. Like, I read all of White Fragility, but my God, I got 5-8 chapters into Sapiens. Like, this is fucking dumb. It feels like the dinner party in every single book that I love. The dinner party scene where these retards are talking about a stupid book, and the main character knows, like, well, this is a stupid book.
I can see how it's mind-blowing for people who've never kind of really put humans in the evolutionary world yet in their lives, and now it's their first time kind of embracing that or something. But I think the guy 100% believes in transhumanism, that they're going to figure out how to live forever and become cyborgs and move on to be the next thing and create the next humans And he's completely what we were talking about with Mary Harrington last week. That guy who believes that, he's the sociopathic computer brain that believes that he can recreate humanity so that we're ready to. He talks a lot about how it's a problem that if you enjoy time with your family or you win some soccer match, like a World Cup soccer match, that if you did that every single day, you would get used to the stimuli. And since you got used to that stimuli, it's no good anymore. And it's a problem with your body that you're not able to keep that stimuli up. So what we need to do is figure out how to alter the body so it can just continue to feel that stimuli and feel happy. So obviously, Mary Harrington says the first cyborgs were women when they started taking a perfectly healthy female body and making it so it didn't do the healthy thing with the pill and or do what it was not supposed to do. And there's so much talk about him cyborging out the humans to become the next thing, to be able to feel whatever sort of happiness and joy and to move well beyond whatever humans we are now. And that's the whole answer to the future stuff. That to me, it sounds like I'm listening to a tech bro sociopath who just views humans as automatons and synapses, and we can resolve everything with happiness just by resolving our synapses.
Also, I don't know if you know this, but money is evil.
Helps you in your life.
Yeah. I call myself an atheist and I call myself a mystic.
And a genius.
And
wait, what?
I don't believe there's any conscious being out in the universe directing our affairs. That just doesn't seem rational to me. Like, how did a person become a magic person out in space somewhere and can influence millions and millions of light years away from things going on, and they're aware of all of it? Like, it just doesn't make sense.
I am trying to impersonate your smile.
But I do
right
think that if we break God down, and again, I'm an atheist, but if we break God down to the three things that are kind of at the base level of how we define God, he's omnipotent, all powerful. He's omnipresent, all present. And he's omniscient, all knowing, right? If I think about the creative energy of the universe 13.7 billion years ago, the Big Bang happens, whatever that means, whatever that energy is that proceeded from that moment in that small space and then emanated everywhere, that creative energy is all present. You and I are it. The animals are it. The rocks are it. It is all knowing. Anything that is known is known by it.
Did he just discover pantheism?
Meaning that.
Yep.
Okay.
God is us. We
Yeah.
are God.
Yeah. And when you're being fries and you turn into a bunch of ashes, that's you sizzling into the universe like a bunch of Tinkerbells, and it's not you just frying. Let's see. Let's hear 1 and 2.
Oh, that's Marty. She's talking to. We were having a discussion over whether or not that was legitimate. The list of 10 Commandments. Forrest thought she was lying, and me and Troy were saying, no, I think modern audiences would clue it in.
Yeah, I think you could steer it to give you all sorts of different 10
Well,
Commandments.
I think he might be right, though, because he put it into an AI with, for modern audiences. So I think there's probably more to the prompt than maybe what she let on. I think Forrest is right.
Yeah. Respect the rights and dignity of every individual, regardless of race, gender, sexual. So now these are kind of more coming off as liberal, which Noel Harari says our liberal modernist interpretations of stuff is a religion.
So get this.
He says multiple times in Homo Deus and in Sapiens that liberalism and modernism is a religious worldview.
I said, give me a list of 10 commandments based on Democratic Party values. It said, as an AI language model, I must remain politically neutral and cannot endorse any political party or agenda. However, I can provide a list of values that are commonly associated with the Democratic Party.
So
just do the grandma hack.
Number two is the problem with number 2 is a problem with systemic thinking, right? Like, you take responsibility for your own actions and their impact on others. No, that's the system, man. So what's the prompt on this for us? Be honest and truthful in all your dealings and avoid deception or manipulation.
I think he said modern audiences.
So it's like modernism. It understood modernism.
I don't know.
Strive for fairness and justice in your interactions with others. Have compassion and empathy towards those who are less fortunate or need your help. Respect and protect the natural environment and strive to reduce your environmental impact. Pursue knowledge and understanding and be open-minded to different perspectives and ideas. Foster meaningful and positive relationships with others based on mutual respect and trust. Avoid violence and aggression and resolve conflicts through peaceful means. Practice self-care and prioritize your own physical, mental. Yeah, those ones
Number
are
10 is just Jordan Peterson.
But that's us. That's us in our modernist liberal religion, according to Harari. But have you heard of Dan McClellan style post-structuralism? Jim Bennett wrote this thing on what if the Family Proclamation gets canonized.
It's not scripture.
He goes into detail. I don't know what it really meant and all that sorts of stuff. And he gets really into, I mean, he's obviously been reading Dan McClellan. He mentioned Dan McClellan 3 or 4 times on the Bill Real thing. When we read any statement in church handbook, we correctly consider the intent of the people who wrote it. But when we read the revelations, we only consider God's intent, not the intent of the messenger who relayed the revelation to us. Do believers ask, for instance, what Joseph Smith's intent was for passage in the Book of Mormon? When Jesus speaks in the Doctrine and Covenants in the first person, surely it would be faithless to ask what Joseph Smith meant by anything he said. He's discovered what structuralism is. This is not the post-structuralism. This is Roland Barthes' de Saussure structuralism, which is what Dan McClellan pushes on people. That's where you get death of the author. The death of the author just comes from the structuralism stuff, because they basically say you can't ever get down to intent or intentionality. But Searle, Searle, that guy argued against all that. He argued heavily for intentionality and that stuff. But of course, he starts asking, well, whose intent was it? Was it the intent of the guys in the proclamation? Or was it the intent of God? Or was it the intent of Joseph when you're writing? Or was it who was talking? And these, well, really, ultimately, it's just death of the author for whatever you interpret out of it. But that problem, like most postmodern problems, even though structuralism and post-structuralism are a little bit different, that problem is for every single line of words you've ever seen written. I saw this meme. I don't think I could pull it up fast enough, but it's like this meme of de Saussure was the first structuralist, and he just says, I don't think words mean anything. And then it just showed all these other people like Derrida and Foucault and Roland Barthes and all those different type of people going, wow, 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 wee, wow, whoa. And let's see. I bet there's a difference between modern values and modern audiences. These prompts are very little. Yeah, I don't know what, because like you say modernism nowadays, and there's a million and one different meanings of that. Yeah. So him talking about whose intent of who wrote that proclamation. I mean, I think everybody who is, I don't know, Kevin, you can maybe tell me on this. Is Kevin still there? Kevin's away. But current day LDS types, they think that came from God, right? Or was it the intent of the, was it the intent of the ones who wrote it?
Yeah, well, ask Kevin. Kevin, do you think that the Family Proclamation is from God? Oh, he doesn't have his...
No, we got to ask him when he comes on.
Okay, well.
Oh, yeah, look at this. BY, the Midnight Mormons are live. Oh, yeah, let's watch it for a second. Can you live stream a live stream, man?
Holy shit.
Were you seeing something, Chris?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we were going to ask you, like,
do you think that the Family Proclamation to the world is like scripture? Like, is it canon?
I personally put it up there, yeah.
That's what I would have said too. So,
so that comes from God, right? Or was it the intent of the prophets at that time? Or both?
I think both.
This Midnight Mormons topic looks pretty intriguing.
BYU girls don't want RM boys.
What?
It's kind of like OG merch. You know what I'm saying? So if you
This is one of the things because part of the whole overlying theme is like, why are the Midnight Mormons talking about Andrew Tate style stuff and going on dates and women, all that sorts of deal and all that, and the ex-Mormons are too prudish to even barge into any of that sort of stuff.
The Midnight Mormons that I can't get out of my head is because Cardin says, "You know what I'm saying?" So often. And I just think of that classic South Park with Butters like, "Yes, I know what you are saying.
Do you know what I am saying,
I know
bitch?
what you are saying." We're through the looking glass now, people. Live streaming a live stream.
Yeah, I know. Maybe like call Cardin and tell him to also watch a live stream.
We can get like the temple mirror going on.
Yeah, exactly.
What are professors like now? One of my first podcasts I did with Kwaku was really the first podcast our channel did was our BYU professors leading the youth astray, and I couldn't believe it. I thought it was a bunch of garbage. There's no way a bunch of BYU professors are going to be leading the youth astray, but now it's actually been a really big problem.
Such
People are
naivety.
talking about the woke professors that are kind of having to be challenged, shall we say, by the student body and by other fellow administrators. What's your experience been, bro?
I know they exist. Most of the professors, I'll say, were pretty good.
What happens if he clicks on our live stream?
That's what I'm saying. We get a temple.
The internet explode.
We get an eternal temple mirror. That's what we get. I wanted to show people this because I might have shown it before, but structuralism versus post-structuralism, which it also gets into what actual deconstructionism is. Like we might have brought it up before, but one of the things about Dan McClellan is he's a postmodernist, but I would call him more of a structuralist because he thinks all the words are contingent upon.
Because he's a linguist.
Yeah, but he also thinks that like he can tell you what the words of something means. But whereas post-structuralism, actual deconstructionism, there's Derrida there, is none of the words mean nothing, man.
Century ideas about language and representation have been very influential in the humanities, especially in literary criticism. We'll look at these ideas by focusing on one key concept in post-structuralism, chain of signification. Post-structuralism is an extension or evolution of an earlier movement called structuralism. Literary critics often trace structuralism's beginnings to the work of the Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure. Saussure looked at an element of language, let's say a word, and divided it into two parts, the sound of the word and the concept it represents.
So that's the constructs, man, the words and the things, the words, the signifier and the signified.
Sound of the word, the signifier, and he called the concept the signified.
If you listen to Dan McClellan
on Midnight Mormons, I doubt they'll read it, but
probably not.
What does it say?
He just told him to
I said we're live streaming your live stream. Live stream us so we can recreate the ceiling room temple mirrors.
Saussure pointed out that the association of a given sound or signifier with a given concept or signified is arbitrary. There's nothing natural, simple, or permanent about it.
Arbitrary.
The arbitrary nature of the sign dominates all the linguistics of language. Its consequences are numberless. This line, and its emphasis on the arbitrary association between these two halves, suggested an uncertainty or slippage in language that would become a key tenet of post-structuralism. How does that slippage arise? Well, in place of this idea that signified and signifier were closely tied to one another, Saussure observed that each term is defined in relation to other similar terms nearby. For example, the sound of the word horse differs only slightly from horn and hearse. Saussure pointed out that the concept, the signified, was also defined differentially in the same way. Defining meaning not positively but negatively, as a kind of gap between adjacent terms, this also contributed to this sense of slippage, and it would have far-reaching implications for later critics. In fact, Saussure had another diagram to express the blurry boundaries between terms. He redrew the series of signifiers as a continuum, and up here is another stream that corresponds to the continuum of concepts, or signifies. It's language's role to delineate units of meaning and map between these two streams. It is mysterious, Saussure wrote, that language works out its units while taking shape between two shapeless masses. But Saussure's model remained simple in the sense that it was essentially one-dimensional. What happens when we introduce additional layers of signification? For example, the word lion signifies a particular animal, but on another level, the lion can signify another meaning, like courage, nobility, or MGM Studios. Here is Saussure's sign. The sound of the word lion is the signifier, and the concept of the animal lion is the signified. The two together form the sign lion. Let's turn this on its side and redraw it slightly, and here we'll put a label for the whole box or the whole sign. On another level, this whole sign is a signifier for something else, say, a king. We now have two nested signs, with one taking the role of signifier in the other. This diagram is adapted from one drawn by the literary critic Roland Barthes. And while Barthes focused on this two-term system, later critics extended it further, noting that these boxes could be nested infinitely. Radical post-structuralism suggests that the chain of signification has no end. Language never points to a concrete signified outside the chain that would anchor it in an external reality. Instead, language only ever points at additional layers of language further down the chain.
That's what deconstruction is.
So this is, you're kind of talking about Harari and all that stuff, and I'm sitting here thinking about, like, all this makes me think about is we're just playing out the Tower of Babel right here. And this right here, to me, also signifies the corruption of the language.
Yeah. But it's also that people can't unify around an idea, although Derrida would say it's impossible for them to do that anyway. They're only ever lying to themselves that they could do that.
So it ultimately just breaks trust.
But that game that Jim Bennett's playing, that he just learned from Dan McClellan, is this game that the entirety of the humanities figured out that they could play on everything. Like, we can mess with meanings and words and languages and what people intend by them till the end of time. And then maybe nobody even really knows who's talking about who's he, what's it, or who's it. So it all just gets negotiated, or it's all just this. And like I said, some people have pushed back on it, like Wittgenstein, Wittgenstein was before them, or Searle, and saying, intention matters, you goofs, and all that stuff, and what people meant by stuff. But you can play the game till the end of time. And so Jim Bennett thought he had a hot take of going in and saying, hey, this family proclamation of the world, post structuralism, post-structuralism. Whoa.
Who's
Gotcha.
to say, though? Who's to say?
Gotcha. Yeah.
Who's to say?
I think it says
you guys follow any of that stuff on Thoughtful Faith with that doink who kept asking if a refrigerator is furniture?
Oh my God,
that's the same stuff. You get how this is the same stuff, and this
yeah,
is
no, that's
like
exactly what he's doing. And I called him
out.
out. I'm like, anybody can play postmodernist word games. No.
So that really kind of
like an appliance.
That definitely stems back to like Plato and all that
I called him out, like right when he was doing it. I was like, okay, Plato, like just tell us exactly what you tell us how many things you got to take away from a chair. That's no longer a chair. Let's
Dyson and messing
so
with
he sent me the video that he meant to send the whole time, which was the whole "what is a chair" video.
I sent that.
Oh, is that it? Was that really what it was?
I sent it. I sent it. He wasn't going to do it. I blew his game up. I sent that.
That's exactly. And I kept asking, like, just tell us your point. Just tell us your point.
I said, here's his
That's
game.
Exactly. And now I'm thinking, like, I'm still interacting with him on other topics. And at the end of every comment, I ask him the same question he asked me: is a refrigerator furniture? And obviously, he refuses to answer because he knows that he's walking into his own dumb trap.
So this was a guy who was on Thoughtful Faith, was trying to test Flip, trying to say, what is a refrigerator furniture? And Flip says, no, it's appliance or something like that. But what he was trying to do is he was trying to show how you could queer categories, which is exactly what Dan McClellan was trying to do.
Can you sit on a
refrigerator?
Queering the category of sex.
There exist sofas that have refrigerators built into them.
Yeah. And so going all the way back to Plato of like saying, what is a chair or some sort of thing like that? They figured out all the way back then that you can really mess with people's brains if they know what the constructs are of the thing that they're talking about. And then those language games of structuralists and post-structuralists, they all realize that they can infinitely play the game with people's minds of especially with something like discourse, which is how Foucault called it. That's why I say if you hear people talking about discourse, you're dealing with the Foucault. But if you have a book and the book is words and you have somebody who figures out they can play this game, it's they feel like they have an infinite trump card. And the only argument back to whatever is it dissects anything you guys want to hold to. It's the container without it's the solvent without container, as Daniel Dennett calls it. Like, you guys can try to play this game, Jonathan, deconstruction for thee, not for me, is what it ultimately is. And you can see, if you go through any sort of current day critical race theory, queer theory, or something, you can see where they want to deconstruct you and not deconstruct me. Dan McClellan gives that game away a little bit worse. Now here's Jim Bennett thinking that he's found the secret to the world too, of doing that whole entire thing of, I'll deconstruct your words, and now you got yourself a little problem. And it's sophistry. It's what it is.
Well, did it die?
Did anybody answer you on the Mount Mars? No, I was just still looking at this. Oh, so I was going to show down here at the end. Similarly, further light and knowledge brings greater inclusion of LGBT people. World cause a reevaluation of the family proclamation that would surprise and delight us with unexpected divine meaning and words that only like meaning. They're the word meaning, divine meanings. I saw somebody say this week that word meaning is just like a it's a receptacle word, like it can mean anything. In words and only seemed to reflect human intent before. It would also infuriate the very people currently clamoring to elevate the proclamation to the revelatory status. Be careful what you wish for. So you're warning us, Jim, that these words are susceptible to postmodernism. We but watch out, like call the ambulance, call the police, man. Like we got ring the Ghostbusters bell, you know. Oh, we got one.
Call the reality police and have them enforce reality back on us.
But anyway, what other crap happened on Patrick Mason got canceled? We already kind of talked about that.
What was the big thing that happened that Jim
started
Bennett was talking about?
Are you talking about the Patrick Mason thing?
Is that what the big thing was?
Yeah,
Well, it was just he started a
Jim
podcast.
Bennett. Yeah. Go ahead.
Patrick Mason started a podcast with John Dehlin. It wasn't really a podcast. It was just like a once a week they would do a This Week in Mormonism, basically. And it was Patrick Mason, Jenna Reese, and John Dehlin. And like he did 2 episodes, and it was basically just like John Dehlin saying, "Yeah, Elder Holland is super problematic," and Patrick Mason going, "Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry about the things that I believe and hold close to my heart," or whatever, and like apologizing for the Mormon Church.
I'll never affirm what happened again.
Yeah, no, he got a lot of kickback, understandably, a lot from Jacob, and then he quit. He sent along tweet threads saying like, "Oh, I didn't realize you'd be this pissed off at me for associating with Public Enemy 1 and ceding every point that he made."
Yeah, see, I knew about that, but the way they were talking about like the big event this week, and I'm like, what are they talking about? It's like, really? Like, I guess
I don't think that was the big event. I think the big event was probably
because I only caught part of that podcast. Because the other thing I'm wondering about is because like Maven was responding to something, and I had no idea what it was.
The big event I'm pretty sure they were talking about was Jim Bennett being on Midnight Mormons and having that big fallout where he thought Guadamax was a dude. And they were like, "No, here's Guadamax right here." And they brought her on, and she's a does not loon bag, but it wasn't loon bag, it was loon bat. And he made it was very important to him that be distinct. That was loon bat, not loon bag. So I think that was the big event that he was talking about.
I guess so, but because that thing's like, I mean, because he really embarrassed himself there, you know, for so many reasons. First of all, just like misgendering Guadamax, but also completely missing the point.
Well, yeah,
I'm still laughing at that video Guadamax made, and I still can't believe she put that together in 24 hours. Just
and that's pretty
really
impressive. That
amazing.
rap was actually impressive.
I still want to know
like,
who wrote it and who performed it. Was that a team or did one person do that? I don't know.
So Desnet is a lot like it's like Mormon 4chan, and if there's anything 4chan can do, it is organize fucking quickly.
Oh yeah, that's true. Honestly, 4chan cracks me up because like some of the most hilarious stuff in the world is on there, and then there's a whole bunch of just garbage, you know. It's the shit that the lefties like to talk about, the racism and the sexism. The thing is, like, it's just so hard to tease out who the serious people are and who are the people just winding people up. But I mean, 4chan versus Shia LaBeouf is one of the greatest things in the history of the internet.
That was
so funny.
Didn't they use like plane patterns in the sky, and then when they pinpointed it, they drove around honking a horn to try to see where the sound was coming from?
There's like another one where like, you know, like because he put it in a building and they were able to just like by looking at the angle of the light through the window, were able to determine the longitude or the where it was, and then they're like, well, it has to be in the UK, and they were able to narrow it down, and then they just shined flashlights into buildings until somebody saw it. Just unbelievable. They're better than the FBI. They're better than the CIA. It's really incredible. I think like I really wonder. It's like you know, there's all this thing in the news today where the Russians are claiming that like the Ukrainians tried to kill Putin, and I just really wonder, like, if 4chan was like, let's assassinate Putin, how long would it take?
They'd probably get it done. But
they'd probably get it done.
That's part of this whole world. Is like I think people Jim and whoever, they go around othering these people on the internet that are probably all people that we could, if we just talked and dealt with them more, almost anybody could kind of like start getting the gist or the joke of their stuff. But like, I agree, like that video, it was obviously like a little bit Desnatty, but it was, at least they're being funny and it was well done music. And then part of the deal is like, I go like, why can't we have nice things like that on the ex-Mormon or whatever side? Like, why aren't we playing that way? Why aren't we playing those games?
Do you want to know my theory? My theory on this is, and always has been, that like Mormons are really good at how do I put this? They're really good at replicating art, but a lot of times they're not very good at creating art. You know what I'm saying? Like a Mormon, a Mormon can like play a really beautiful piano part, but it's difficult for a Mormon. They don't generally have a great sense of humor.
Yeah,
like they're not generally very funny people, and they don't all of a sudden gain a sense of humor once they leave the church. And so it's the few people, but then you get the few people in Mormonism that are talented. It's like they put all their stats on that one person, and that dude is really fucking talented.
Is Kevin
it's the same in ex-Mormons. So
he might be.
But it's something I heard that like in the classic era of the Mormon Expression podcast, they were talking about why there's no good Mormon art. And the lady said something that I think is pretty accurate, which is that like part of what makes art good is it has to be challenging.
Yeah.
And within the Mormon framework, you can't really challenge. That you're just not supposed to. But Desnat, obviously, like they don't care about that. They're just gonna go ahead and challenge. And so that's why that was really good.
It
but also,
should
like,
just be
she's not
something
Desnat,
that, like,
right? That's the whole joke. She's not Desnat, so she put on Desnat like a mask to make fun of Jim Bennett. And did it?
But it should just be the answer's a funnier meme back. That's the answer.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Jim
Well,
Bennett's,
it's like
he's going for the victim thing.
Well, I brought up earlier was like, when the Book of Mormon musical came out, and the church took out an ad in the playbill and said, like, you've seen the play, now read the book. The best Mormon PR move of my lifetime. Hands down. The best one. Because it was timely, it was funny, it was succinct. That's how you do that.
But that's what I kind of think. Like, if the trajectory continues how it's going, how we have these Mormon guys who seem to understand meme culture and internet culture and nerd culture, and we have continuous ex-Mormons who just keep becoming more and more pearl clutchers and insulated, pretty soon it seems like the ex-Mormons are going to be Islam and the Mormons are going to be having all the fun. And that's not.
Yeah. No, that's the thing. It's like, who's the side that's into mutilating children's genitals right now? It's the ex-Mormon wokies.
Who's the side who can actually talk about dating and dating girls and say something kind of a little bit salty or raunchy about it?
Actively pushing for censorship on the national level. It's not Mormons. It's the ex-Mormon wokies.
Yeah. And it just seems like they should be the ones able and willing to talk to whoever, whenever, able and willing to roll with whatever punches of jokes or not jokes. But no, like we can't have nice things. That's been the whole entire depression of the atheist or ex-Mormon movement. Like we couldn't just be. We couldn't be the South Park ones, or whatever. But Charlie, you little knucklehead.
Charlie needs to go walkies.
Yeah, it's about there. Hey, anyway, if only church could see that less is more membership, and only ex-Mormons could see that. I think they both do this stuff. Talking about art and good art and stuff, I just want to mention Gordon Lightfoot died. And you want to go listen to some good stuff, listen to Tony Rice, who covered a ton of Gordon Lightfoot songs. And if you want some good YouTube channels, there's he's got a very famous song about the sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And there's some great YouTube channels. When I want to get off all this stuff, I go down rabbit holes of shipwrecks. And
that is a good rabbit hole. I've done that before. That thing's like, I have read about the Edmund Fitzgerald. I haven't actually listened to the song, not all the way through. You even posted it.
And you should listen to Tony Rice play it because he shreds it. Let me see here. And check out this lady's channel. She's a mortician. She does stuff on.
Is this the famous mortician channel that's been around for a while?
This lady?
Yes.
Yeah.
We'll go towards
she's got a lot of different stuff, but she's got this episode on the Edmund Fitzgerald.
Does she dress up like Morticia Adams on purpose?
I think so. One thing, here's a weird old thing about me is my ex-wife was the daughter of a mortician. We used to go around on first calls and pick up dead people. That used to be my midnight job.
Dating.
But The Lake That Never Gives Up Her Dead, that's a song, that's a lyric from Gordon Lightfoot. And this is a good episode on what that whole song is. I don't know. Can I play that song?
There's one thing like
we get
shipwrecks. The one that I read about that messes me up is a fairly recent one. Was the wreck of the Farol, which and it just the reason it messed me up is that it was literally just the captain steaming into a hurricane.
There's so many. There's a couple channels. I mean, I'll show them, but there are so many wild shipwrecks you wouldn't even believe it.
Like most of them are like airplane crashes where it's a cascade of failures and it's a lot of bad luck. But the wreck of the Farol was lost literally because the captain's like, no, let's go into the hurricane, and everybody's like, like the first officer even sent an email to her mom like, I don't know if I'm ever going to talk to you guys again. We're steaming into a hurricane, and it was completely unnecessary. There was no reason for it. Nobody would have been mad if they'd gone around, but he's just like, no, hurricane, schmurricane, let's go.
There's so many.
The whole ship was lost with all hands.
Oh, yeah. And he shreds when he's like, but let's see. There's this channel, what the hell? Maritime Horrors. But that's just one of multiple channels. There's a bunch of channels like this. And I spelled Maritime.
Well, have you read about submarines going? Because that's kind of scary. Although, here's the nice thing though about being on a submarine sinking is because when you reach crush depth, the implosion takes a 20th of a second. So you are dead faster than your nervous system can feel it. So it's almost more reassuring, but just the idea of being on the boat going down and hearing the boat creaking and just knowing.
I saw one of those where the people were in a decompression chamber down underneath the water, and then somebody closed the door wrong and their bodies just turned inside out in 2 seconds. But,
oh man, this is a weird way to end the podcast. But you read about the Kursk, that Russian submarine that sank in 2000? Part of that was messed up was just because Russian incompetence and secrecy. Because the Americans, the Norwegians, everybody's the British were like, we'll help. And the Russians no, it's no big deal. Nothing happened. Look the other way. And it was all a horrible tragedy and then a big controversy.
Yeah, so we're talking tragedies and the tragic death of Gordon Lightfoot. Although it wasn't tragic, he's old. But check out if you want to see somebody shred about old-timey ideas and music, go listen to Tony Rice. Has a whole album of Gordon Lightfoot covers, and Tony Rice is a super shredder, but Gordon Lightfoot was a super writer, and stuff that shouldn't be forgotten. Got to carry the light on. Is there crap we forgot? Were we overly dickheaded this podcast? We were a bit dickheaded, right?
A little bit.
Were we more dickheaded than normal?
No, about the same. Are we always overly dickheaded?
Marty says yes.
Well, Marty's overly nice, so
there
that's
you
her
go.
problem.
Stupid Marty's always nice.
Of Mormonism.
Yeah. Anyway,
what else do we have? I don't
go. Thanks for checking in, everybody, and thanks for listening. I think we're done. I think we covered it. I think we properly shit on whatever.
Maybe I'll listen to Stephen Pineaker podcast.
Yeah, it sounds good.
I told you.
If you want something wild, go listen to him. And I think he was with Bill Real on it. Go listen to them cover how some of those old school apologists created a fake black apologist.
Oh yeah, I didn't dig into that. I only heard
he
about
did
that.
it. He's the one who kind of dug it up.
But because that's the thing that blows my mind about that when I heard that, like, oh, some Mormon apologists created a black member, and I'm like, dipshits, I know the guy. Like, I know the guy. There's an old guy.
No, this one's
who's
real.
A black convert from Memphis, Tennessee. He lives in Utah. I met him when I was a missionary. He is my favorite Mormon of all time. He's the best one ever. And if you want a black Mormon apologist, he's a real life person, and you can talk to him, and he will talk to you. You don't have to make one up.
Yeah, these
But
guys,
I guess I need to
these
listen
guys
to the
make
thing
one
right
up,
now.
and it's kind of ridiculous.
Wait, I gotta tell you, I just saw an NPR article. It just came out 2 minutes ago, and it's one of the first NPR articles I've seen that isn't Flip Johnson commented.
He's too busy here.
And it is lawmakers in Montana, Tennessee, and Kansas have voted in the past few weeks to narrowly define who is female and male in state law with terms like gametes, ova, and immutable biological sex. That is insane.
Oh my god! You know, I've been rewatching original Star Trek straight through. I'm only like 4 episodes in, and yet in every single episode, there's a moment of like where they're talking to an alien. It's like, well, that's a woman. And every time I'm just like, oh dear, if only you guys knew what the real future had in store for you. But alas,
it's so weird, man. Anyway.
Alrighty,
everybody. Thanks. Everybody go check out.
We forgot to comment on Crowder.
We talk so
Boring.
much crap on people doing podcasting goofy wrong. Go check out Troy and Forrest on Latter-day Skeptic.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Crowder's a douchebag. That's all I was gonna say about
Crowder's douche.
Alrighty.
All right. Later.
See you guys.